Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next regularly scheduled meeting is Friday, August 23rd, 2019, 9 a.m. at the Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive, Sebring, Florida. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Consent agenda. Minutes of the Board of Supervisors regular meeting held June 28th. Traders report and golf financials from May 31st.
Move approval.
Second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Siegel,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelling,
Yes.
President Branson.
Yes. Action agenda. Resolution number 2019-07/19-24. A resolution of Sun Lakes and Sebring Improvement District to adopt the golf facility rates for the fiscal year 2020.
Move approval.
Second. Any discussion?
I still think it's wrong to raise the membership rate to 2%. What it's worth.
I think it's a little strange. As I spoke with Tanya over the week, I understand the process and I'm okay with the rates in general, but I'm concerned that we're approving the rates before we finalize the budget. It's just kind of a backwards way to do things. But the one concern I have, because I'm not sure in the detail, we're also going to be discussing the rate, getting rid of the first-time homeowner rate and changing to a first-time member discount. And I think that when we do that, we need to differentiate the rate for a resident versus a non-resident membership, because I think the first-time member rate is going to encourage more outside non-resident memberships, and I think we need to differentiate that.
I don't disagree, but that's not this is.
Well, but we're approving the rates, and we haven't got a separate non-resident rate in this proposal.
This is the golf rates.
I understand, but it's also the membership rates. And we haven't got a non-resident rate, we just have a membership rate, because in the past it hasn't been that big an issue. We haven't had that many non-resident members, but if we open it up to the first-time discount, we either need to, in my opinion, differentiate a higher rate for non-residents or not offer that first-time member rate to non-residents, which I think would be counterintuitive since we're trying to increase memberships.
So you're just saying we should take the new program, if we do it, and put it into this before we approve it?
Well, we don't necessarily have to take the new program and approve it first, but I think that this would be, because we're approving the rates now for next year, that in order to accommodate the other proposal, we need to have a member rate for non-residents, which is not in the current proposal.
Are you advocating that we change the rate we're charging the current non-resident members? And we do have some of those.
my understanding is we have one rate, whether you're a resident or not, for memberships.
Exactly.
And I'm saying that we need to differentiate and add $500 to $1,000 for non-residents for membership, because I think that if we adopt the new proposal, we're going to have a lot more non-residents. And I think that because we are a golf facility that's facilitated by the district, the residents of the district should get some evidence of consideration there. So whereas I'm saying we need to increase it for non-residents, what I'm saying is that maybe the rate should be higher and we're offering a discount, which is the current rate for residents.
Philosophically, is this thing on? Philosophically, I agree that, but practically, I don't think it's possible for us to do that at this point in time. I think if we're overrun with non-resident members, that would be a very good thing, and we can deal with it at that point in time. This is a one-year deal, right? We're not committed to do it forever. We can change it.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. In reality, I would hope maybe we sign up 4 or 5 non-resident members in this first year, and if it's more than that, great. If it becomes, I think just like you said, if it becomes an issue, then we address it then.
I mean, I think you're correct. The residents are supporting the golf course to some extent, not to the extent that they have in the past. However, there's also some benefit from living in a golf community that has very good golf courses in terms of the price of your house and that sort of thing. So you don't have to play golf, but it does affect the price of your home. So I would like to see us have 20 non-resident members. It would be a very good thing for our cash flow. And I think at that point in time, we could always amend that, or we could choose to grandfather the ones who came in under this program. So as I say, philosophically, I totally agree. But as a practical matter, I don't think it's a deal at this point in time. And if you raise that rate $1,000, it'll take care of itself because you won't get any.
That would be my concern, is you would preclude a lot of people if you added that $500 to $1,000. We're the second highest rate in the county now.
I personally think that we ought to just keep it the way Cliff did it, but personally, I don't see us gain anything the next year, because I think most people, they'd be crazy not to join here for 1 year for half price. But I think but we don't know until we try, but that's why I've kind of went along with it. But I'd have never brought that up, because I don't think we'll get the renewals that you want, but we'll get a lot of half price ones this year, which the only way we do it is to try it and see how it works. That's, so.
Right. I guess the issue is it hasn't cost us anything if we do it, and if it works too good, that's fine. If it doesn't work, that's also fine. It hasn't cost us anything, so I think it's worth a shot.
So again, the resolution that we're dealing with is for the existing members' golf rates, which have been published, advertised.
If you want to add a non-resident membership rate later, the only requirement is that we publish it. So, I mean, we just have to publish and let people know that we're now going to offer this rate. Once these rates are published, this is what we can charge. I mean, assuming this is adopted, this is what we can charge. So if we want to charge a different rate for non-membership, we just have to publish that. I mean, for non-residents, we just have to publish it.
You got to be careful. We have people who are non-residents already, who are members.
Correct.
So we have to, I guess if we ever were to do this, we would have to put a grandfather clause in or something like that, I guess. Certainly don't want to raise them. They've been good, loyal customers or members, so to speak. I think we're reaching on this.
Yeah, I'd like to just keep it but the way it was proposed by Cliff and just keep our fingers crossed. It doesn't hurt to try. We've done other stuff before that don't work, so it's worth a try.
The other thing you got to think of is that we're on, if we were to add for non-residents, we're going to price ourselves right out of the market. We lose the advantage of people coming here. Everybody tells me that Highlands Ridge is what, 5,500, I think people tell me. So if we tack on to what we have, why come here? They can go to Highlands Ridge, but it might be cheaper. So we have to be careful from that standpoint as well.
I guess my concern is that we are opening ourselves up for an influx of non-resident one-year memberships at half price that may not renew, but they'll take advantage of the one-year offer.
Oh, I'd be happy to talk about the membership program again. If this is the time to bring it up.
Well, we can just approve these rates and talk about the membership program later.
That's the next resolution, so. All right, any public comment? Chrissy?
Nope.
Sorry?
Paul Carolyn. I had a question when you're talking, because non-resident would affect me, so I'd have a stake in this. When you're talking non-resident, or is this for new?
Paul, what we're discussing here is a resolution for the new rates, not the non-residents. That's not part of this conversation.
That's the next resolution.
That's the next resolution.
So I'm ahead of myself.
Yes, please.
I'm confused too, Paul.
Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelling?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
President Branson?
Yes. Okay, resolution number 2019-07/19-25. A resolution of Center Lake and Sebring Improvement District to adopt the recreation facility community center fees for fiscal year 2019-2020. Any discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I'm sorry. Now any discussion?
We got to put shuffleboard in there somewhere. Assuming we'll have it within the next 18 months.
Could we not add that when we have it?
Well, this is next year's budget. We know we're going to build it. We just don't know when we're going to build it.
This is next year's rates, not next year's budget.
Next year's, whatever they are. Next year's rates.
I understand we can do that once we build it, like Field of Dreams.
Correct. You just got to publish. And have a public hearing. That's all we're going to do.
Okay. I assume we'll have it sometime in the next 12 months.
David and I just received the interlocal agreement with the county, and he reviewed it yesterday. So we'll bring this back to the board for the August 23rd, 24th board meeting.
Okay.
So we're adding the $10 on so everybody gets his card, right? So anybody who signs up to play tennis is going to be a social member automatically. And they'll get a card or something.
Correct. To Paul's comment, you can be a resident and not own property. You just pay a fee to do so, and you get the resident rate if you're living here. So,
Any further discussion? Any public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hotelli,
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
President Branson.
Yes. Resolution number 2019-07/19-28. Resolution of Sun Lakes of Sebring Improvement District to conclude the Sun Lake Homebuyer Membership Program and establish the Golf Membership Discount Program. Any discussion? I'm sorry.
Move approval.
Second.
Now any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to know why it changed since our last meeting and why we would even consider it as a resolution since it has changed since our last meeting and we haven't discussed it.
What's changed?
1 year, the only exception will be those who have joined the summer members or 1 month members from a few years ago. They will be eligible. We've never discussed this. This was added on after our last meeting. And I don't know how we could add on to a resolution before we even discuss it. We didn't even see it till this past couple of days.
The summer membership was discussed at the last meeting. The 1 year membership,
This was not discussed at the last meeting to add it on as part of the membership program. Period.
We talked about the summer membership.
we did talk about the summer membership. We did not talk about the 1 year seasonal membership that we offered only for a short time.
No, it was just brought to my attention that we didn't talk about the 1 year membership and or the 1 month membership.
Yeah, 1 month
and
we did.
We left.
it's just one of those things that we're just trying to hit every one of those angles that might come up. That's something that we're going to have to make a decision about. And if the dollar amounts collected, frankly, are higher, the summer membership's what, $7.99, and we're collecting $2,300 or something for the new introductory offer. That's a plus. You know, same thing as the 1 month membership. I don't even know what we were collecting for that 1 month at one time, but it has to be less than $2,300. Again, that's a plus. I just didn't want to preclude the 10 or 15 people that took advantage of a 1 year membership a couple, 3, 4 years ago without, you know what I'm trying to say. It's just, it's more money to our bottom line. It's a plus, that's all.
I know. All I'm trying to say is that we said at the last meeting we said you would give us specific information on what you thought we should have going forward, and now it's in a resolution. I just have a problem with that. It's just me. I think what we're doing, I got to tell you, in all honesty, I don't understand why you would make an exception for summer memberships. I mean, if you make one exception, then you open up a can of worms, as far as I'm concerned. And the more I think about this, with Mike, with what Mike said a little while ago, I think we're going to just open up a can of worms that is going to fall flat on its face. I think maybe we ought to go back and reconsider home ownership as the criteria, as opposed to having it just wide open to anybody. Because I agree with Mike. People are going to come in here. They're going to take advantage of us. They'll do it for half a year, and they're going to walk.
But I still think we ought to try it, Ray, but I hope I'm wrong. That's all it is.
Well, on the worst case scenario, they will have paid us $2,200 on a full membership. So I mean, it's not like they're getting to use it for free. So I don't see the worst. I don't see a big negative in the worst case scenario. Sure, there'll be people that take advantage of it. There's people that take advantage of anything you try to do. But we'll also probably get some that'll take advantage, and then there will be members, and that's what we're looking for, really.
Yeah, and I'm just willing to try it. That's all. I have concerns about it, but
Okay. All right, assuming that I'm going to lose this vote, What the exception for a summer membership is why again? I'm sorry. Can you explain that one to me again? Why we would say it's okay? There's a couple of guys from Tanglewood that I know joined for the summer.
Yeah, and I hope they join.
But
Full
what we're
time.
saying is they join for the summer, so now in the fall they can join for half price?
Not the summer rate, the annual rate.
No, they're going to join at half price, right?
Yes.
Half of the annual rate.
Yes.
And these are two people from Tanglewood.
So they paid us $800 for the summer, and then they'll pay us if they're single $1,000 or roughly for the rest of the year for another 12 months.
And then they
No,
can just
if they're single, they'll pay if they rejoin, say in their membership ends September 30th, right? So if they rejoin October 1, they'll pay the full rate for the year, $1,600 for a single, whatever that is, half of the single rate, for that entire year. So
Right.
we're still,
So we've gained $800 this summer plus $1,600 for the next 12
gained
months.
$800. That's the bottom line. We've gained $800. Yeah.
As opposed to them playing wherever Tanglewood plays. I mean, I see what you're saying, and yeah, it would be good if we could figure a way around that, but I don't know how you're going to do it. And I don't know that a couple of guys are going to make a difference one way or the other. Our best case scenario is that 10 people from Tanglewood take advantage of it. I just don't see the downside. Maybe I'm too dense to understand.
I hope they do the math.
what? Well, for them, anybody who doesn't do it is a fool.
Yeah, I agree. That's
But
great.
but to come back the year after, you think they're going to come back the year after?
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea. I mean, we're not going to get all of them, but we're going to get. I mean, there's going to be some conversion. There will be. There will be some conversion.
I hope. And what type of conversion are you looking for? I know you're looking for 100%, but I want to commit. Well, you tell me what you think is good.
Better than 50%.
Ooh, I got $1,000 on that one. Hey, you got to look long term. Is this a good policy for us, or is this a 1-year policy and we're going to say, oops?
Only one way we're going to find out.
And we're going to, if we look at whereas clause number 4, we're going to need to clarify that I based that on the information that I was given, and which says that if it's anyone that's anyone who has not previously held a golf membership for more than 3 months.
Where are you?
3 months or more.
Yeah, that's what we need to change it to. So if we go down to the 4th whereas clause,
Where?
here, the 4th one down.
Oh, where is? 1, 2, 3, yeah.
It says, replacing with a golf membership discount program whereby anyone who has not previously held a golf club membership for more than 3 months. Now that's, based on what I'm hearing, that's not what we're wanting to do. So we're wanting to, the people that have had a 1-month membership or a summer membership are still allowed to take advantage of this program?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't remember. When did we ever offer a 1-month membership?
Has it been that long?
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago?
When we first started, we had a 1, a 3, and a 5.
Yeah, must be 5.
Yeah.
So we're going to, anyone that's held a one month membership still qualifies. Anyone that's held a summer membership still qualifies. But everybody else that's previously held a membership does not qualify.
Right. And then language that says longer than 3 months needs to be changed to say
3 months.
3 months or longer.
3 months or more.
So we don't preclude the 3 months people in the exception. Or don't include them in the exception.
Correct. Okay, so if we can get if you want to do a motion to make that amendment.
That amendment doesn't make sense to me, because if we say 3 months or longer, that would mean if you had a 1-year membership.
Correct. It would also mean if you had...
Or a 3-month or a 5-month.
But my understanding is we're offering this to 3-month memberships or summer memberships, which are what, 5 months?
No, there's a summer and a 5-month. The 5-month is for in-season, and it's a much higher rate.
There is a summer membership for 5 months.
Right, but there's two distinctly different 5-month programs: the summer and the seasonal.
Right, so there is one summer membership for 5 months.
Right.
Why don't you just make it say that?
I think that's probably going to be the best thing to do is we pick the 2 memberships that don't preclude you from this program. So there's 2 memberships that don't preclude you from this program. It's a 1-month membership or a summer membership. If you've held any other membership,
Is that correct? Ask him.
is that the plan?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So if the 3-month membership does preclude you, then.
Yes.
You're not eligible.
Okay.
We just don't want them playing that game of
I get
trying
it.
to save a couple $300 by opting in and then opting back out.
Okay, now I'm totally confused.
And this will be reviewed next year at this time, correct? So I can get my money? I'll take personal checks.
To help you, the summer membership is basically specific dates.
Right.
Okay, $7.99. The 5-month membership, you pick your dates. It runs 5 consecutive months, so it basically happens for the Canadians that are here.
In the wintertime. Okay. And they would not be eligible for this because...
Exactly. The ones who are here for the summer would be. The ones who used to be 1 month would be, as I understand it, and those are the only 2.
How many summer memberships we got?
14 to 15.
Okay, then what we're trying to say here is...
So basically, not to interrupt Mr. Hotelli, but just based on what I'm hearing, the revised language would say, anyone who has not previously held a golf club membership, parentheses, with the exception of summer and 1-month memberships, can receive it. So those are the only 2 classes that if you've held that membership before, you're allowed to participate in this program. Any other form of membership, you're not allowed to take advantage of this.
I would make a motion to approve that amendment as stated by council.
Second.
Discussion and public comment on the amendment.
Any discussion? Any public comment?
And now vote on the amendment. We have to have a vote on the amendment.
Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Hotelli?
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
No.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President Branson?
Yes.
Okay, so now the only other thing we have to do is we need to pick an effective date down in paragraph 2 as to when we're going to effectively conclude the home buyer program.
We are not obligated to continue it through the end of the year.
No.
We are or we are not.
Not in my opinion, we're not obligated.
But we
But
can.
at the same time, I don't think it should be effective immediately. We should give people some notice.
Could we run both programs?
What was that?
Do we have to?
Can we run the programs concurrently? In other words, can we extend to December and start the new one?
The home buyer program will naturally conclude at the end of this year. So if we want to conclude it sooner, then we can put a sooner date in that blank in paragraph 2. If you want it to run to the end of the year, we just put the end of the year in that blank.
Thoughts, Cliff? What would you suggest? Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm fine with running them concurrently, I guess. No, I really haven't thought about it. I mean, all we would be doing, if homeowners, we would actually, by doing it concurrently, we would actually
Give the residents a better
what
deal.
Neil suggested, and that's give the homeowners a choice to pick from each program. So now that I think about it, I really haven't. I guess I don't see I don't see a downside. I don't see a problem.
Neither do I, and that gives the residents a better deal, so I'm good with that.
I think it also makes it, we've noticed it a year ago through December of 19. I think that is a consistency, so I would support continuing it through 19.
The purpose, again, was to get rid of the confusing language, and we've had several complaints about free is not really free, right? And lastly, we have seen the conversion rate has gotten a little bit worse.
Yeah.
You know, it started out really gangbusters when we started the program 3 years ago, and it's not anywhere near as effective. And again, I was asked to come up with some different ideas and some different programs. Dan, I'm with you. I really don't see a downside running it concurrently, at least through the end of the year, and let's see how it goes.
If you're a homeowner, which one would you?
Oh, I picked the cheaper one.
Oh, you get it. So you get a choice. We're saying you can have a choice.
Right.
Oh.
Well, so how do I handle those Tanglewood guys?
Hey, it's your problem.
They don't qualify.
Tanglewoods are not property owners.
Yeah, they don't qualify for the homeowner program
Okay.
through December 31st. Tanglewood. They qualify for the new one, yes, sir.
Okay.
So do you need an amendment to put that December 31st
I think we can
date?
it's everybody's consensus that we let it continue through the end of the year. We'll just fill in December 31st on that blank. And then we'll vote on the amendment.
I'm good with that.
Are we ready to vote on the resolution? Any public comment? Okay, Chrissy?
Supervisor Stiegel?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
No.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes,
Supervisor Hoteling?
Yes.
President Branson?
Yes. Okay, resolution number 2019-07/19-27. The resolution is signed by the Receiving Improvement District to award the dining room furniture project designated as RFP 19-08 to Beltram Food Service Company for $53,753.21. Motion to approve.
Second.
So we don't have a motion yet?
I make that motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, any discussion?
On the light side of humor, you're spending $53,000. Why don't you have them put the tables together? Why are we trying to? I don't get it. I just didn't understand that one. You're going to screw them in because you want to save money. We're spending $53,000.
Yeah, I mean,
Why don't
they
they
were
just do the
having to
whole
bring a
thing?
guy over from Sarasota, and I was going to have to pay for it. And you know, we're doing 50 tables. Simon and I can put 4 big bolts into tables without spending an extra $1,500 for paying for installation. I'm just trying to be frugal.
Okay.
So this is furniture for that room, not this room, correct? And the new section. So all of that will be new. What are we doing with the old stuff? Or is there a market for some of that, or do we know? Just curious.
We can surplus it. We'll bring it to the board as surplus, and we can put it on Gov Deals, possibly. Or I don't know if it has a value. I mean, some of the furniture is worn. Some of it may be okay, but I mean, that's the best we can do is try to see if we can sell it.
We still have all that Lanai furniture too, right? Someplace.
Somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody asked me if they could buy some of that. And I told them I think so, so just so we put it out.
once
Yeah,
we put
the
it
lanai
up.
furniture is pretty worn out.
Yeah.
This other stuff is 10 years old plus, and it's on its no pun intended. It's on its last leg.
Yeah, I agree, but I just hope we let the district know that it's for sale before we surplus it.
We'll bring it to the board as surplus, and then we'll advertise it.
Okay.
And just so we're on the record, who's going to approve the furniture, the colors, and all that crap?
It's been being Daniel so far.
I'm sorry?
It's been being Daniel so far.
I just want to know who, if somebody's unhappy, who to refer them to. Thank you. That's good.
Okay, any public comment? Chrissy?
Supervisor Brooks,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hoteling,
Yes.
Supervisor Stiegel,
Yes.
President Branson.
Yes. Okay, item E, discussion, permit fees, Omar?
Good morning, Supervisors. Omar DeJesus, Finance Director. Provided you guys with a memorandum and as well as a spreadsheet that shows what the district's current permit fees are and what we are proposing. This is almost phase one of the whole entire construction permit review. So we're trying to accomplish two things right now. We're trying to get our permits in line, have one set of standard rates, and we're also reviewing our two permits. We're trying to combine them into one. So currently the district offers two separate sets of permits, one for our wastewater and water connection and a separate permit for driveway and batter board requirements. So we're going to combine those two into one and have one set standard rate. So did you put the picture of what our current fee structure is? So looking at this spreadsheet, the district's current rate structure has two separate sets of fees, one for bonded properties and one for unbonded properties. Currently, we're running into a situation where a lot of the properties through escheatment to the county are being escheated and coming back on the tax roll, and developers are buying those for development. So the question becomes, should we charge them the bonded fee because there was a bond there at one point in time, or should we not charge them the unbonded because no one ever paid that bond? In the district's opinion, we never incurred any cost to put that infrastructure in place. It was all put in by the bondholder who never regained that cost. So to us, it's just the cost of a connection. So we're proposing going to a standardized rate, eliminating bond versus no bond, and having one set of fees across the board. We also wanted to accomplish.
And let me go back to that point.
Go ahead.
Because the assumption there is that we won't incur any, and we haven't resolved issues with Fifth Third Bank yet, and there may be a settlement involved.
Correct. But even if we did, any money recouped through the bond goes to Fifth Third Bank. So us, by charging a higher rate for a non-bonded property, really is just extra income for something that we didn't expend money to put there in the first place. So,
No, but it might offset some of the settlement Fifth Third might want to get it resolved.
Right. But I guess you would have two sets of different owners in development too. So if someone tries to build a property now, they would be getting a deal versus someone later on. Once again, I just don't know from a district standpoint if that's something, or if that's the course that we want to go to try and recoup those money, because we always have the possibility of doing a special assessment, just some other forms of trying to collect versus imposing that on the contractor or developer. So that's something to look at if we think there's a possibility of settling.
Okay.
And that goes to my other point, is having a no bonded rate. If you bought a property with a bond, you essentially already paid for that infrastructure. And if there was no bond, you probably paid for that infrastructure through the contractor's price, the sale price, or the home value price. So one way or another, as a property owner, you've already paid for that infrastructure cost to be there and have the ability to connect to our system. So we feel there should not be a no bonded rate, and so we're proposing to eliminate that. Another thing that we felt that our current fee structure is it stays static across the board. So the same connection fee is for a 3/4 inch meter, a 1 inch meter, a 2 inch meter, all the way up to an 8 inch meter, which we disagree with. We feel a 6 inch meter, which is a commercial property, should be paying more to connect to our services because it's going to be more demand. It's going to be more wear and tear on our wastewater treatment plants, our water plants. So because of that, there should be a higher cost to connect to our system. So now we prorated that where our 3/4 meter is our base standard, and then each meter size goes up accordingly based off the meter cost and how much it costs us to go out there and put that meter in place accordingly. Thirdly, we've added a few new charges to our permits. Currently, there's no renewal or requirement, so permits can be outstanding for a year, 2 years. We have a couple homes that are stagnant at the moment, and there's really no recourse for the district at the current moment. We are requesting that we add a $500 reinspection fee, and we would also like to include a provision in the contract that after a year, that dwelling starts being assessed at a full single-family rate. So they would go from the $350 vacant lot rate to the full $700 assessment rate, regardless of whether it's completed or not. So that's something that we would like to include in our permits in order to encourage the contractor to get done within a year and eliminate some of these stagnant vacant houses that we're starting to see around the district. I think those are our three main topics. And then the last one, we did add a provision for service extensions. We recently ran into a developer who requested a service extension. There was really no set guideline of how to address it. So we've put in a quote in here that it would be based on third-party quotes, and that cost would be transferred to the developer. Do we have any questions on the spreadsheet or the rates being proposed?
I just got a quick question. Assuming that we adopt this, what are the steps that we have to take to get this thing approved? Do we have to go to the county or anybody, or we just do this?
No. We advertise for public hearing, and then we adopt the rates.
So we can just do, we don't have to rely on anybody on this one?
Correct. But we will go to the county once we have some of these guidelines in place so they understand what our procedures are. Is that correct?
I guess, can
we'll
the
go to
county
the
nix this? Or
No, absolutely not. This is
so
us.
if we decide we
Yes,
want
sir.
this?
Correct.
Another one I just want to point out real quick is I've noticed on 27 there's a commercial property that has a couple bulldozers. They're starting to clear that right next to Heartland National Bank. We've received no notification from the district of what's going on. So another item that we've added is a land clearing fee of $100 per lot. That causes them to come into the district, find out what our permit fees are. We can look at and review the plans. It just starts that process. Right now they're just going out and clearing, and we have no idea what's being cleared, when, where. And then they have to start maintaining that as well. So once they clear it, there's a code enforcement requirement that they need to keep that up to date. So I've made some phone calls. We're trying to find out what's going on that commercial property. But I think having this land clearing inspection will prevent them from starting to clear, and they also can't obtain a county permit without coming to Sun and Lake first.
Motion to approve. Sounds all good to me.
I think this is a discussion, honestly. Omar, you mentioned something in regards to this addressing the problem of homes that are started and not finished. And I'm not sure how this addresses that and what we do when they're not.
I guess in our mind, it disincentivizes them to prolong the construction process. So now you're going to have a $500 fee after 6 months if there's no inspection. And then you'll also, after a year, you'll go from $350 assessments to $700. So now it's $850 being incurred if you have not completed that construction project within a year. So will it stop the problem as a whole? maybe not. I think it disincentivizes a lot of contractors from prolonging it because it's going to be added cost the longer they sit on that property and don't complete it. And we only have a handful of problematic contractors and developers. But once again, right now we don't have any fees. We have no recourse besides foreclosure on getting their attention from a district standpoint and these permits. So if we can void their current permit, start charging them a fee, at least there's some form of communication and we're imposing something on that contractor.
And the property can be liened.
Correct.
Yes.
So you said the 6-inch pipe, I guess, that's for commercial use only, basically?
Yeah, typically anything over 4 inches is going to be a commercial.
So let's assume they're clearing those lots on 27 and they're going to be commercial buildings.
Correct.
It says TBD per case. Who's the TBD? Is that you?
So we'd go out to a third party company, get 3 quotes and see what it costs. So if you notice,
so we have to hire somebody to get a quote?
correct. Yeah. If you notice on the 6 inches, just looking at the sewer connection, a 4-inch line sewer connection would be, currently it's $900 to connect. It would be $29,000 on this new proposal.
Right.
So we can only assume a 6-inch or an 8-inch is going to be a pretty substantial number. We don't want to discourage a large commercial entity from coming into the district. So on those cases, we feel it's better to, let's go get a quote, let's see what it's really going to cost, and then work with the developer to make sure we get their business and they develop here in Sun Lake.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, that we don't want to discourage development.
No.
We want to encourage development. So we're jacking up the rate pretty good. If you're a 4-inch line now, you went from 900 to 45,000. That's pretty significant. I don't know what our actual cost is to do that, and I don't know. We have significant excess sewage capacity right now, although we probably do need an interconnect. But bottom line is, well, that's just a lot of money, put it that way.
Yeah. And just one thing to note, supervisors, when we publish rates, those are the maximum rates that we can charge. So we can always negotiate with someone to say, okay, if they come in and say, hey, this $45,000 number is way too high, can we work on that? Yes, we can. What we can't do is if someone comes in and says, I'm ready to pay my $45,900, we can't say, oh, well, we're going to charge you $60,000. So these are the maximum rates we're allowed to charge.
That makes me feel better.
So real quick, for example, if you are a new house under construction, your water connection fees will remain the same. Is that correct?
Correct.
As they are now. So we're not recommending an increase there for residential 3/4 inch meter, and the same for sewer, right?
Correct.
Same dollar amount. So from a residential standpoint, the rates will not increase for connections. We've looked at some of these issues fairly hard over the years. These no bonded rates that Omar had mentioned, we have not charged those rates as long as I've been here. It was something adopted by the board in 2007, 2008, we found, and it could have been adopted before that. We were, doing a little bit of research, but as far as I know, those rates have not been charged. So
we've actually been charging $2,900 for a 3/4 sewer connection fee?
That's the no bond rate. That's the one we haven't been charging.
Okay, so you've been charging $900 and you're going to $1,700. So actually, we are going up.
Well, that includes the
impact fee.
So if you look at on where the sewer connections at the very bottom, there's a total. I've totaled what a permit cost. So if you look at total 3/4 permit with bond is $34.05. Without a bond, it's $81.05, and what we're proposing is $34.05. So across the board, it's all going to be the same. We just included the impact fee inside of the water and sewer connections going forward. So before we had different rates split out. So there used to be the 3/4 used to have a $900 connection plus a $800 impact connection fee, which was $1,700. So we kept that exactly the same.
Okay. Kind of confusing the way it's done.
It's very confusing the way it is currently hopefully this will be a lot more streamlined. There's only one. It's $1,700. That's it. I'm not charging you an impact plus a connection plus a meter charge. There's about 7 different fees that we tack on to our contractors at the current moment.
New mass stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think this will be a lot cleaner. We've run into a couple properties on, for example, Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach, there was no bond ever established on those lots there. Orangewood Builders and Hornick Homes and some of these developers put those lines in during years back when they were doing all that development. So is it fair for that contractor who put that line in themselves and paid the cost, should they have to pay $8,100 in permit fees for something they put in place? That's where we started assessing this just doesn't really make sense from a district standpoint.
Any further discussion from the board? Any public comment? Okay. Next topic is water and sewer utility rates.
So jumping into water and sewer. Yeah, on the permit fees, what we'll do is we'll come back at the next meeting.
Can we step back a minute?
Yeah.
The question has come up. We had this discussion on the connection fees. Do you need a motion to move forward with that, or you can just do that?
No, yeah, we'll come back. This is another thing we have to publish, and so when we're published, we'll bring it back with a resolution.
We're going to turn it into a resolution.
Correct.
And we'll see it next meeting.
Correct.
You can do that next meeting, or I would recommend an effective date, October 1st. Correct, Omar? Effective
correct.
date.
So yeah, hopefully at the next meeting, David and I will work through. I'd like to show you with a full revised permit as a whole that shows what the requirements are, the 6-month renewal, just all that verbiage and the fees on one solid document, so it's just crystal clear on what contractors will be
So
seeing.
we'll have one more discussion and then we'll go from there. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think it'll be ready to go as soon as we bring it back.
To the resolution.
Yeah, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote at the next meeting, but we're recommending an effective date starting next fiscal year.
Correct.
For the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll jump into the water, sewer, utility rates discussions. We're proposing a $2.75 increase for the water and sewer base rate charges in place. So I've provided you guys with some backup supporting documentation. I'd like us to go to the spreadsheet that shows other municipality charges as well as a history on what the base rate has been here for Sun and Lake. In 2009, the base rate was $31 for the district. So it was $12.50 for water and $18.50 for sewer. In 2012, the water base rate was reduced to $5.25, which made the total rate go from $31 to $24. So it went down $7. Our current proposal is bringing it back up to $10.50 and $21 for sewer, which is a total of $31.50, which gets us just 50 cents higher than it was in 2011 when they changed it for 2012. So we're bringing it back almost to the same rate it was 8 years ago for the district. It's still going to be the second lowest in the county. The only lower municipality charging a fee is City of Sebring inside city limits, which is $41.41. Currently, we're at $41.15, so we are the cheapest. Having the $2.75 increase will bring us to $43.90 for an average consumption of 4,000 gallons. Having this $2.75 increase will generate roughly $122,000 in extra revenue in utility fees. So we're recommending that we add that to the current savings, the transfer that's going into the URF. Currently, we budget to transfer $537,000. So this will make the total transfer into the URF $659,000. So we'll be transferring $14.85 from every month, from every customer, into this URF account. One thing that we wanted to bring up for discussion is whether we want to keep the term Euro or Euro fund. In the past, there were certain stipulations and requirements where it only needed to be used for utility projects. There was a resolution passed a few years ago where we're now using that for major capital improvement projects. We use it for the maintenance building. So we are making a recommendation that we change that maybe to a capital improvement fund versus the Euro fund. So that's something that we can discuss and see what your thoughts are on making that change.
I probably understand what capital improvement fund means. I don't have any idea what a Euro is, so I'd say that makes sense to me.
And it's still these funds, the Euro fund is restricted, so it's only used by board approval through the budget process. The capital improvement fund would be the same. We would let you know when we're planning on using that set of money and where it'd be coming from, so it'd be a board decision to take the money from the capital improvement fund and use it for a major capital project.
I like the idea, but I don't like the way you said it. You're going to let us know when you're going to
Well,
use
we'll
it.
propose it to you through the budget.
Just kidding.
What I was looking for was to put money away for future capital projects that wouldn't be touched by any of us until those projects were considered, and then that money would apply towards them, i.e. a swimming pool, if we're talking about that down the road.
So you want money earmarked for specific projects?
I'm sorry? Yes.
You want the money earmarked for specific projects?
Yeah, the Euro fund, as far as I can tell, and I know it's separate money, but it can be used for anything.
Correct.
Board approval doesn't mean jack. If we set up a budget and you need the money, that's board approval.
Correct.
So, I mean, who's kidding who?
Well, I guess I understand what you're
and
saying.
that's fine. That's the way it is, and I understand that. What I'm saying is, I want money put aside, and we can call it swimming pool project, or you can call it district club project. I don't care what we call it, but that money should not be used for anything else. Otherwise, I don't see any sense in raising the rates on anybody. You need a purpose to raise the rates, and to me, that made sense, because down the road there are going to be some capital expenditures. Hell, you could call it a golf irrigation fund, because eventually we're going to have to do golf irrigation. I don't care what we call it, but it should only be touched for those major expenses that we're going to have to occur eventually. So that was my thought process. So if we're going to just raise it and put it into the current Euro fund, I would vote no, because it'll just get lost. If we're going to create something separate and give it a name or somehow that we can't touch it unless it's for that specific reason, I think that makes sense. I could sell that to people. If anybody says, why my rates go up,
I don't have an issue with that, other than I think we have to be careful that we'll end up with 12 funds or 15 funds. One for the
I would take the Euro fund and dissolve it.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, how many of these other separate funds would you advocate having? I would agree with one for the pool, because I think down the road we know that's going to be a necessity.
Well,
I mean, every project over
no, I don't think
500,000.
No,
what
I
are you
don't want
looking
one
at?
for every project. What I'd like to think is that we're grown up enough that we can just say this is a capital expenditure fund, and it can't be touched unless it's for a serious capital expenditure of over 500,000 or something like that. And that way, I don't have to give it a name of a pool or give it a name of what, because I don't know what's going to come first. The irrigation system may go down next year. I don't know, but we have to start saving monies for when these things happen, so that we have the monies there instead of saying, what are we going to do? That was my intention behind this whole thing. I'll just go one step further and saying 122,000 is not sufficient. We got to come back. We have to collect like $250,000 a year now. If you want to take 2 years to get there, that's fine. But I think we have to be serious about what we're going to need, what our needs are down the road.
You're basically collecting $625,000 a year, assuming we did this, correct?
Correct.
But that money goes towards your budget. You can't make the budget without that $500,000 Europe money.
Right.
actually can.
You can't. You'll have no money in the general fund. You want to keep the Euro fund separate and not use it towards anything but major capital expenditures? That's fine. In 3 years, we're out of money in the general fund.
This is in essence a discussion of the rates, so I assume what we need to figure out is, are we in favor of doing the increases?
Right.
I think so. I don't think it's appropriate for us to hamstring a future board by putting a lot of restrictions on our capital accounts. I would agree with you, we shouldn't be balancing the budget on the back of the reserves unless we have a major capital expenditure. And I haven't seen that happen in the past, and I don't expect to see it happen in the future. But I don't know what to tell you. You can't have 27 funds, and that's what you'd have to have.
I only said one fund.
Yeah, but you got one for the pool, and you got one for the tennis court, you got one
That's
for
not what
the
I
top.
said.
I know that's not what you said, but that's the impact that we'll have eventually if we start splitting this stuff out. We should have one capital improvement fund. It should be restricted to capital improvements. I agree with all of that.
We can have one capital improvement fund, no longer call it URF.
Correct.
That's an idea. We would have to discontinue that by resolution and then just approve it, whatever the name is fine. Currently, we have a balance of, where are we at, 3 million?
Somewhere close to that, yeah.
In this capital improvement fund that was authorized by the board back in the year 2000 and then changed as far as what they could actually use it for. Initially, it was only for utility infrastructure.
I think in essence we got what you're asking for. We just don't have a formula, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So where do we go from here? I'm in favor of changing the rate and changing the name.
If it's just going to go into an account that's a miscellaneous account, I don't want to deal with it.
Not a miscellaneous account, it's
It
capital
goes into
improvement.
your Euro fund. Euro fund doesn't need anything. It can be used for anything.
So I think the reason why we even started going down this road is we're in the budget process, and we know the budget's showing you a $300,000 deficit. So this 122 extra revenue is going to offset some of that deficit. It's
Right.
not going to be a savings, but it's offsetting that deficit. So to your point is you're not putting any money away in savings anyway. Even by adding this increase, you're not putting anything away for savings. We are balancing a budget right now. The URF money is only being used for major capital improvement. We're not using the URF money to offset a reserve or offset the budget. We're using general fund reserves for that. So
we haven't taken any money out of that Euro fund. It's just going to go up $560,000 every year.
correct. The only time we've used it in the last
And when the
10 years
general
was for the
fund
main.
gets down to nothing, then what do we do?
Well, that's part of the budget process. I don't think we'd ever let that happen. Part of the budget
Well, how do you
process is
stop that?
for us to tell you there's only $3 million in this general fund reserves. We're not going to use $1.5 million this
How
year.
much is in the general fund?
$3 million.
And how low is it supposed to go? Or can it go?
Right now, we're only budgeting a deficit of $200,000. So
Is that what I asked?
at that rate, it could last
I know we
you
have to have
20
a certain amount of monies. How low can that fund go before we're in trouble?
It depends on your budget. Once again, this is an annual thing that we go through, and right now it's showing a $200,000 deficit. So that could last you, what's that, 15
That's
years?
assuming we don't make any other changes. But Tanya,
Correct.
I think what Ray's asking is there is a recommendation as to how much capital we need to have or how much reserve we need to have, and that is, 6 months? Or it's actually, I think, 90 days operations, correct?
Recommended by the auditors is usually 3 to 6 months. We have 14 months.
Right.
That's what we have.
That's counting the Euro fund.
It's counting everything, yeah.
That's counting everything.
Well, yeah, but how
But
much?
if we,
The Euro fund's either for something else or it's for the everyday expenses. Which one is it?
we don't touch Eurofund unless it's approved by the board. The board approved a
What approves
1.7.
everything over 25,000?
Okay,
What does that mean?
Basically, the Earth Fund is a capital improvement fund, right? There are other reserves, and they are basically $3 million, which is what, 6-7 months of operating expenses?
Correct.
So we basically have double. If we got into trouble, we could use the capital improvement, I guess, in a worst-case scenario. But right now, we have twice as much reserves in the other account as the auditors recommend.
Correct.
I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess what you need from us is a sense of, yes, we agree with this, or no, we don't.
Correct. Do you guys agree with the $2.75 that's proposed? And where do you want that money? Do you want it just to go into the utility fund to offset the current budget, or do you want it to be restricted and go into the Earth capital improvement?
Or we'll call it a capital improvement fund.
I prefer to see it go into capital improvement plan. I think we need to figure out our operating issues on an operating basis. But I'm in favor of increasing the rate.
If the Europe is for capital improvement, why don't we change the name to Capital Improvement Fund?
That
Well,
was
that's what
part
they're
of
recommending.
That's what we're talking
That's
about
what we're
doing.
recommending.
That's what you're recommending? Good idea.
But
My only objection would be is we have to leave it open to the current board, whatever it is, for, you can't tie the hands of the board. At least I feel that. It could be in there, and if three of us want to do something else other than a pool or, whatever, the three of them have the ability to do that. I don't want to strap us into certain things, because
There's no way to make that happen. We can't. This board can't vote on something and say that future boards can't change it.
Okay, that's,
Okay, so you have two in favor.
I guess where I'm confused, and it sounds like this is where you're looking for direction, is if we are continuing to run a deficit that has to be supported by other funds, why don't we just make this operating income that would reduce that deficit?
I suppose you could, but we are not far enough along in the budget process that we've approved a budget that says we're going to have a deficit this year. The last iteration does. It's $300,000 in essence. But I got a pretty sharp knife.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I don't think we should be dipping into reserve just for grins. It ought to be something pretty serious. So that's going to be the next. At the end of the discussion, we still have a budget workshop, and we need to talk about how we can raise income or cut expenses or prioritize capital projects to the point that we're at break even. In my opinion.
Okay.
So to your point, I think the way it's currently structured is on a year where we break even operationally, no revenues match expenses, no income. The year causes us to transfer money from our operating account into this restricted account. So we're just moving it from one account to another, even though there was no excess or deficit. It was just a break-even year. So we're taking it from unassigned, unrestricted, and putting it into another account that's restricted, even though we didn't have an excess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Some money, all money's green, but some money's greener than others.
I'm sorry, you said you're moving the Europe money?
Transfer from operating account to the Europe fund. That's the way it's structured.
That's the way it's structured by resolution.
So,
Okay.
so any revenue in the utilities that isn't offset by expense goes into that Europe. Now, what I'm saying is the net, the difference between revenue and expense. No, I'm still confused.
I'm confused too.
Money is transferred from the operating accounts into, in essence, it's a capital improvement fund that they call URRIF. So basically, you're putting money back out of current funds into a capital improvement fund.
Correct.
All right, just so
It's one target into the
other. If
other.
we have $3 million in the capital improvement or Euro fund today, next year we're going to have 3.6, somewhere around there.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no way those monies come out.
Not
So
without board
any
approval.
additional monies that we're short of come out of the general fund.
General fund reserves first.
And the board can approve whatever savings or whatever monies you want to put aside. If it's 500,000, then it can be 500,000 a year. So that can be done during the budget process.
At this point in time, we're talking about just, are we going to approve the rates, or are we in favor of approving the rates and in favor of changing the name?
Correct.
At some point, we have to decide how much money we're going to require you to transfer into this account. But that's not what we're talking about today.
Yes.
We all together on that?
Yeah, because it looked to me like we were talking about transferring the entire increase generated into the Europe fund.
We can if we need to, yes.
But we're not saying that today.
Correct.
Okay. Looked to me like we were.
Okay. Do we have a consensus of the board?
Well, I thought the increase was too small, raising the water a quarter. Anybody want to talk about that? Or if you guys are happy with it, fine.
I can talk about, I mean, that was their recommendation. We can certainly talk about raising it more than that, if you wish. Come on.
I mean, a quarter was...
So we felt the reason why it's only a quarter on one and $2.50 on others, we felt the sewer there was an imbalance on where the base charge was. We have two sewer plants in comparison to our one water plant. Our sewer operations are double we have a lot more sewer calls and sewer breaks, and it's just more demanding than our water plant is, so that's why it's double the base rate. So we've set the base rate for the water at $10.50, and the sewer's twice that amount. So we felt there was an imbalance there, and that's why it's not a straight dollar for dollar on each one. There was an imbalance, so we were trying to adjust that imbalance.
So each dollar that goes up either way creates about $50,000 in additional income.
I would say it's
You went up $2.50, and it was
it's $44,000. So we have 3,700 current connections. So it'd be $1 times 3,700.
So if you went up 50 cents on the water rate, that would mean your sewer rate went up 50%.
Correct.
To your point, is that what you're saying? You want to do more on the water?
Well, I just thought if we're going to go up a quarter, that's fine.
Well, it's a
Not only that, we were looking at the total
bill.
charge across what the average bill would be. So the more we go up, the more that total bill comes up. So we could do 11 and 22. It just, where do we want to fall in line in comparison to all the other municipalities as well?
If we went up 11 and 22, then you would be talking basically about $46.
Correct.
Something like that.
Correct.
Still be in line.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2009, we were $31, right?
For the
We're
base
proposing to be at $31.50.
Correct.
It's 50 cents in 10 years.
Correct.
You guys think it's too much? Okay. I mean, that's why
I didn't say that. You want to make it 11?
I'm thinking
good
that
with
there probably is a little bit more room if we want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out.
I agree with going up because if we're going to need the money. We seem to find a way to spend it. So
So you want to do what? Are you proposing $11 on the water rate, which would then make the sewer rate 22? Correct. I understand that relationship, right?
Correct.
Well, they don't always have to be the same relationship, do they? I mean, they've never been, if you look at the history. So the base rate hasn't changed.
They don't have to have that relationship. We just felt it was, even in 2009 when it was $12.50 and $18.50, we felt it was out of line. You were charging almost the same as you are for sewer when there's twice the demand, twice the sewer plants. It just didn't seem appropriate. So you could set it to be.
I mean, I would tell you figure out the breakdown, but I would say if it was $31 in 2009, surely we could get $33 or $34 in 2019. I mean, maybe not, you tell me. I get the bill. I don't look at the breakdown. I just look at the bill.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, even if we look at the averages, the average for a water base is $14. The average for the sewer is $29. The problem is there's some inconsistencies there where some governments only charge a base rate. They don't charge you for usage. So it may cause that base to be super high because they're not charging you based on your usage. So we always got to take that into consideration as well, as we want it to be in line as a whole. And the average bill being at $46 is still in line with other governments. So
I don't know why you don't do 11 and 22 for your bases, and it generates that much more money. You thoughts? You okay? Neil?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Discussion on the district logo. I assume Eric has something to say. Discussion on the district logo. Are you leading that charge, or are we just supposed to talk about it?
So what you see up here, obviously on the left-hand side, you've got our current district logo. On the right, as we discussed at our last meeting with World Design Marketing, this is their proposed logo for our rebranding and marketing campaign going forward. I believe that you've obviously from the last meeting seen these, but I believe they were in the packet as well to review. So as of right now, we're at a little bit of a standstill until we can make a decision on the logo. Obviously, it's no pun intended, but it's a centerpiece of the marketing campaign. So until we make a decision on how we want to move forward with the logo, we're kind of on pause.
Well, I took this to the expert in my house, and my wife tells me, she said, "Why do I have an orange-colored golf ball?" I said, "I don't know." So that was her comments. But as far as assuming that we have to live with an orange-colored golf ball to a certain extent, I assume option A was their recommendation. Am I guessing that correctly?
What you're seeing on the screen right now was the recommendation of...
option
Yes,
A.
option A is their recommendation.
Is that their recommendation?
Yes.
Then I'm fine with their recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, if you go to the doctor and he tells you to take aspirin, you say, "But I don't like aspirin." You know, it's kind of stupid to pay him and not listen. So we paid him, so I think we should listen.
I think the only concern I have with that is that we've taken golf out of the context completely, and we've made the sun look less like a golf ball, which makes golf even less of the concept and confusing. If we are going to drop golf and recreation from the logo, I would favor sticking with the golf ball we have with more dimples.
I think that's relatively minor, so I think that's good feedback, though, for them.
This will come as a shock to all of you, but my undergraduate degree is Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I agree with Mr. Hotelling. I don't think that the new golf ball looks like a golf ball, and it would be very easy to use the old golf ball.
Yeah. It looked like one I found the other day in the woods. A little old.
We could change the color to one of those vivid jobs. Can't lose that. I agree, and I think that's good feedback for them. I think their reaction was to our people don't want to change the golf ball.
So we're saying the current golf ball on the left with the print on the right?
That would be my feedback to them.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I'll go with that.
Well,
Any other comments on the color of the golf ball? I know with the more of a yellow to the top and orange to the side, that's the way it currently is. I mean, is that...
I think that looks better, just to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the centerpiece community is fine. And
I'll go along with just about anything, but I got a concern that in the last 7-8 years we're trying to go completely away from what Sun Lake is, and that's a golf community. I don't know if we're trying to. It just seems to me like some committees or some people are trying to turn this into it's just not. I don't like it not being a golf community. I don't know if we're trying to be more diverse or what, but I don't understand it. But I guess if that's what these people, and I don't even know where they got their information. I don't know if it's from that committee you guys had. or what, but I certainly don't understand why it's Florida's centerpiece community. I mean, I'll go along with whatever, but it just seems to me the last 7-8 years, this place is going, it's just going away from a golf community.
Yeah, I think their rationale in their commentary is pretty clear, and I don't disagree. Golf is not the king that it used to be. I think for our community it still is, and that's why I favor still emphasizing that is a golf ball and not losing that by taking out so many dimples. I think the concept of the centerpiece community with the stronger golf ball still tells you that this is a golf community, and that's kind of the centerpiece of Florida for most thinking today, that if you're going to move to Florida to a community, golf is a part of it. But the centerpiece is really kind of saying that we're kind of in the center of the state, and that we are an ideal community. So I think by keeping the golf ball more clearly a golf ball, I think we're still keeping the golf part of that without saying that if you're not interested in golf, you don't want something like it.
Well, how would this one be then? If we took C and put the golf ball in the way we just, originally, and that, C says golf, it has the centerpiece, it's got the golf community, we give it the right golf ball, we've got it all covered. Is that better?
What? Yeah, and I'll go along with, because I'm not an expert in this, but it just seems to me, since I've been here and a little before, and I don't know where all this is coming from, but we're certainly getting away from what we are. And maybe that's, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if the people don't want it to be a golf community or what, but, I'm not an expert. I have to listen to them, but I don't like it.
I think you're reading more into it than's there. I mean, this is the first impression, and that's all you're going to get. And what they're talking about marketing is on the internet. You're going to click on that, and it's going to take you immediately to the golf course.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This is really all about digital marketing,
right?
And if you look at this kind of big logo, the whole idea. And we've had lots of discussions about this logo long before it got to you guys. But with the rounded edges, it's not quite as sharp. It's easier on the eyes. It's more relaxed. But the logo, the C with all that, people on the internet, their attention span is about 2 seconds. Yeah. They need it needs to be. I mean, they need to see the idea and see it quickly because they're gonna be moving on. So. And we talked about this logo for a long time because it could still be something that's a change, but it also didn't require tens of thousands of dollars to cleanse our old logo away.
90% of the people here never play golf that live here, so what we're really talking about is a community that also has
But the
golf.
purpose is almost all going to be in digital media, not really. It's not like our signage up front.
Maybe we're trying to do the impossible here, and why don't we just leave the damn thing like it is?
I really do like the new one. I think it's a lot cleaner. And I like Neil's idea of the golf ball. I think that's good feedback.
Yeah, one other thing I'll point out about that is we're seeing this on a big screen.
Yeah.
Most if people are going to be seeing this on their phones or tablets, and that the newer golf ball with less dimples is not going to show up. It's just going to look like an orange dot.
Right, it's going to look like a sun.
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing you want with your logo is clean and immediate, and less words are better. The fewer words, the better. So I think it's fun. That's my opinion. I don't know. You're okay with it?
Yeah.
Which one did you decide on?
That one on the right.
On the right?
With the proposed logo with the old ball.
With the old golf
on the
ball.
left, the old ball, and the new words.
Right. But
New font.
I think the blue is fine because that kind of says lake too. So I don't care
Oh,
about
the blue
that.
versus the green? Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Either way, whatever, they can deal with that. But you're okay with it?
Yeah.
If we do that?
Pick one.
Is that the feedback you need? Is that the feedback you need, Ariel?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
the feedback you need, Ariel?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feedback is you're on your own, pick one, we don't hold it against you.
Yes, I like the pick one comment. That's my favorite. Yes,
And we know who to blame.
Yeah, we will hold it against you.
that's fine. Add it to the list.
Okay. Add-on items.
None.
Petitions and communications.
None.
Staff reports.
Yes.
So I just wanted to give a couple updates. We finally received the GFOA 2018 Budget Award this year. So that did come in. We did get a plaque. We're probably going to hang it up somewhere in the accounting office, so we're excited about that, finally getting that in. Yesterday we had an insurance committee meeting with the county. So the district's under the same insurance umbrella as the county. They proposed a 22% increase for the rates this year, just based off catastrophic claims and funding. So the rates are expected to go up 22%. We ran some numbers yesterday just to see what that impact would be to the district, and it was somewhere in the ballpark of about an $80,000 swing this year. So currently in the budget, we included a 4% is what we thought it was going to be. So there's going to be some adjustments to the upcoming budget as far as health insurance is concerned. So just want to give you guys
How much of an adjustment? I'm sorry.
$80,000.
$80,000? Take it out of the general fund. We can put it.
Are we looking at other alternatives?
We are. We've contacted a couple different carriers that we've used in the past, just to see what the quotes come back, to see if there's some savings there. We've only been with the county pool for about 2 years, so it's unfortunate that it's been kind of a downward trend with them this past 2 years. So we're going to see if we go back on our own, what that would do. Hopefully it brings the cost down, and we'll bring that back to the board to see which direction we feel is best to go, move forward.
With all the special improvement districts in Florida, is there a umbrella account for special improvement districts we can look at?
There's a couple different pools. We've reached out to PRM, which is our insurance carrier. They have a group and health trust, and it includes not only special improvement district but other counties. It's a larger pool, so we're hoping getting more of that.
So you're looking at that also?
We're also looking at that. So we'll come up with a couple different options and see where the numbers fall.
Yeah, one catastrophic loss can really mess you up, and it's kind of, but that's why you have insurance. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can go up.
Yeah, so it can go up. If they write a check, they're going to charge you. I can guarantee you that.
Omar, I got a question for you. The developer on Inside Deer, have they decided to buy the lots and go ahead on that hadn't paid for them yet?
So I spoke with Tasha at the county. They have granted that developer an extension. There was some building ordinance that prevented a Polk County contractor from developing in Highlands County. So they've arranged meetings with the building official to meet with Southern Homes on trying to get a resolution on that. So she said there is an extension in place. So we'll keep waiting to see whether that comes to fruition or not.
And how many lots are there?
They have 25 lots.
25, that's what I thought. Okay,
So.
thank you.
Staff report. Others?
So I think Cliff has talked to some of the board members on the potential for, and we discussed it briefly at the last board meeting, potential of doing a new gold tee out on 5 Turtle. Where we're talking about locating that tee is to the left of the cart path, just past where the comfort station is. There's a palmetto grouping right there just left of the path that points you straight down the fairway over there, and we're proposing that we put a gold tee in there. It's roughly the same yardage as the other tee. It may be 10 yards forward of what the current tee is, but it's just across the water. We would obviously leave the other existing tee, so we would have the opportunity to move it back and forth.
Turtle?
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about last meeting that the other tee is so small and all across the water. So
closer to the restrooms?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Be right behind.
yeah,
To the
I wish
side?
we had a overlay, but if you've made the turn and you're headed like you're going to go down to where the current red and green tee is, it would be the other side of the cart path, but back.
Why would you move the golds and not the whites too?
Well, it would. We could have both tees.
I'm
We
just
could.
saying
We
because-
could have the ability to move. Both of those
The only
tees
reason
on
I'm
that
bringing it up
side.
is you want visually the golds to have the same challenges as the whites, right? I mean,
Sure.
that's what we try to get, I assume.
Sure, and I say
And they
gold
won't
just
be if you
because
don't.
primarily that's what we
It's just that
We have
that
play in over there.
current 5T is really small for the amount of,
Yeah.
it really needs to be either expanded somehow, but we want to get off of that T so we can, everybody comes off that path, and you see what
Yeah.
it looks like right off that path. We're trying to fix that, that's all. So we want to close down that 5T for a while and resod it, but really the best thing is kind of getting, all we're really doing is I guess, increasing the amount of T area total for the white and the gold tees.
Yeah, if you move them both, that's
Yeah,
cool.
we would move both
That's
currently, and then we would move both, and then we're right there near irrigation from the red tees, so it's just kind of a great solution without starting moving that tee box around or cutting into the brush and the palmettos towards the right side of that current tee, so it kind of fixes the problem.
That's right. How much will that cost?
it'd be around $2,000. That's
About $2,000?
from start to finish. So
Okay.
that's something that we would like to do while we're closed, if the board is supportive of that, so that when we open back up, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
I think I see a lot of nods.
Okay.
Okay.
Update on the project that we had going on with Mondragon Golf is complete. Our programming is now complete. We still have some money that we're negotiating through as far as what was done in the process of the project, what we did in-house. So we don't have a final tally, but right now we are under budget on that project as it stands. I don't anticipate that changing. The pump station, I know if you played golf the last few days, you've seen a bunch of trucks out there, and that new panel and control system for the pump station is in. We got it operational yesterday afternoon. It ran last night with no issues. That is the first phase in that project. Originally, we had intended that to be all at one time, but because of current weather situations and coming off the back of the other project, we wanted to get the control system in, get the pumps operational as they are. Sometime later into the fall, we will come back in and actually remove the pump and the motor existing. It'll take about 2 weeks for that new equipment to be constructed and then brought back to put back in, which means for 2 weeks we'll have to run limited amounts of water, and I'm just not comfortable doing that at this time of the year. So everything's gone according to plan with the project, with the exception of we decided to hold off on the motor and the pump itself. The new control system already will help us save on power usage, and it'll help us run more efficient even with the old pump and motor, because we were able to tie in a 40-horse jockey pump that hasn't been operational since long before I came here. That is now working. That's the first pump that kicks on, which means we're not going to kick on a 125-horse pump when we are only running 200 gallons of water. We'll kick on a 40-horse pump. So it's going to use less power. It's less water hammer onto the system. So it's a win. So I wanted to give you an update on that and let you know at some point, into the fall, we will come back and finish that out.
Before I forget, the ice machine on
Turtle number 5.
no deer fight. Is that the one that's out? One of them's out. I can't remember. I think it's deer fight.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll check to make sure. I don't want to misstate it, but we had the one on Turtle number 5 pulled, and I had some stuff
Tell you
done
what,
did as
we
well.
got to figure out a way, because we're having problems with the ice machines. And when
Yes.
it's 95 or 93 degrees outside, and you go up and there's no ice, there's a problem. So if the machines go out on us, we should figure out a way to get a cooler of ice out there so guys can still get drinks and not get dehydrated. I think that would be very nice if we could do that.
Yes, and I wish we could figure out something a little different with that. But
Well, I wish I could get them to work. That would be nice.
well, I've had the company out. We pulled the ones off Deere when we were closed, had them go 100% through them, descale them, put in new parts. We
No, I
put them back
understand, but,
out.
I mean, there
I've
have
done
been
the
guys
same
that
on
have
turtle.
complained to me that it's been so
No,
hot
and I get
there's
it.
no ice water on the course.
Yeah, I get it. And we have, whenever we've had those down for extended time, we have put out coolers. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do with those machines. I wish we could come up with something that was more consistent. But, and I don't know if the company that we have who helps maintain them is the best company, but they're the only one in town right now. So, and then I wanted to give an update. We had talked a little bit, I think, before about master plan and coming up with an overall plan for tying in irrigation and changes to the golf course and the new tees. I've had an architect out who's done a lot of free stuff for us as it relates to the aqua tees on both golf courses. Also some drawings on hole number 17 Deer. I talked to Tanya for the last couple of months about trying to sign him up for an overall master plan so that we could tie everything together and also compensate him for the work he's done to date. So we did that last week. I think Tanya signed off on that. It was about $9,500. That will include construction drawings of 17. It includes construction drawings of the aqua tees on Deer Run, and it will future include the aqua tees on Turtle. Hopefully by the next board meeting we will have costs associated with the Deer Run aqua tee construction, which is in the capital right now, slated for next summer. So that I just wanted to bring you up to date on that as well.
Earl, before you go, just for the record, can you address whether or not, since you've been here, that we have removed any trees from the golf course that were either not dead or damaged or dying? I can't think of any.
Off the top of my head, there was one tree that was not 100% dead over on the back of number 5T on Deer that was damaged during the hurricane. It was one of the old camphor trees that just looked horrendous. We did take that out last summer. We've taken out a couple of magnolia trees that weren't 100% dead, but they were severely diseased. Most recently, we took one out on number 5 Deer down near the green.
But as far as
but otherwise, any
trees.
larger structural, fairly healthy trees, we've taken none out. The one tree that we had any issue with, we brought to the board last year. That was the live oak tree out on 16T on Deer. I never like to take a live oak out because we don't have that many out there, but that one had a huge hole in the center of it. It was hollow in the center basically, and because of its relationship to the T there, we came to the board and said, hey, we'd like to remove this, and everybody said okay. So anytime that we would look to remove or change, a tree out there that might affect the golf hole itself, we would absolutely come to the board and say, here's what we'd like to do. So anything else has been a dead tree.
We still have some dead ones, and there's another, I guess, phase of the tree program
Yes.
that they're coming back.
Yeah, and we actually, in our meeting last week, Tanya and I talked because I asked to be able to go ahead and bring a tree company in and get some of because we're starting to stack up. We've got the one dead one left of Deer Run T that's been there on number 1 for a while. We now have another dead one down the hole, and I wanted to get it out because it's pine bark beetles that have killed it, and if we don't take it out now, we'll be taking out 3 more down the line. So
Right.
we did talk about that about a week ago, and I've had a company out to give us a price on taking those, as well as the dead palms on left of number 60, or there's a big dead pine on number 9, actually 2 dead pines on number 9, Turtle. So we will be doing those here shortly. Originally, we were trying to wait till our budget rolled around as per what we had discussed, but we're going to go ahead and get those out.
I saw on the news that those palm trees, that's a disease too, that's killing them all over.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's a shame. They were so beautiful, but
Yeah.
they're not pretty now.
Well, and I don't know if anybody on 6 anyway will be too unhappy if they hit down near the water. At least they don't have to negotiate
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah, it's kind of a double hazard, really.
Yeah, it is. So there are a couple of trees that later on into the process we will come to the board and talk about that we think are structurally not sound that we need to look at in the future. So.
Well, you also got a lot of mistletoe out there. Sooner or later, that'll be a problem.
Yeah, and we're going around currently, which we do any time during the summer. We are going around and trying to lift trees, both for playability, but also to get some of the sucker growth and things like that cleaned up. So you'll see the guys are out now.
June financials completed just a couple days ago, so that is in. We've pretty much near budget, even with some. We're starting to really spend a lot more money on Earl's side. You've noticed the 2-time staffing company that's out there. The folks, the extra crew that's out there that they're doing all sorts of stuff. So everything from bunkers to bunker edging to cutting the edges of greens and actually removing goose grass physically. So they've been doing tons of stuff, and I guess we're going to continue. You'll see on the budget line there's just they cost us about $12-13 grand in 1 month. We've seen such an impact. We're going to continue that, and the next thing is tree work, but we're really so far ahead of a budget in Earl's department. We've actually cut a little bit when it comes to some chemicals, so we're gonna kind of maybe a little bit cut into some of that cost a little bit, but we think that's been real successful, and we're going to continue. So, but as overall budget, it's kind of right. We're still kind of right on. The project, we've been a little bit behind. We've been behind because we've been behind kind of the hospital. The hospital project ran a little bit for Marmor. They're finished now, and we're in the last few days. They've really done a lot to kind of get us pretty close to being back on schedule. So I was worried before. I'm really not much worried now. So we're hopefully back on schedule, and the revenues in food and beverage have. Obviously, we're not doing the event revenue that we did in the summertime, but we're just way over budget and a la carte, like expected. So we're recouping a lot of those costs that we spent to do the temporary kitchen. So it's going to end up being maybe a little bit of profitable and at least a wash, but hopefully we'll make a little bit of money off of it too. So.
Is there a penalty clause in the contract we have with those guys?
Yeah.
If they don't finish on time?
There is.
So we are going to adhere to it this time, right? It's up to the board. Okay, so
my big day is October 12th. There's a wedding on October 12th that was booked like 2 years ago.
I thought, but your commitment was October the 1st, correct?
Yeah,
No, September 30th.
Yeah, September 30th. It is September 30th.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the date I'm worried about is that one wedding date that's been booked for years.
Well, we're not. We want September 30th, Clint.
On your expenses for the next 3 months, are they going to be in line with last year, or are you going to be spending more money?
A little bit, probably a little bit more money.
A little bit more money?
Yeah. Just because of some of that.
Because I do want to remind you, I know you're going to hate this. You don't make money. We still give you $300,000 a year. So to say that you're on plan and all that crap is not really, in my opinion, accurate.
Well, I'm going to end up beating plan by about
Oh, be
$80,000
careful.
or $90,000.
80 to 100,000? I think that if you're going to be planned by 82, I mean, for the year, well, then I think we ought to plan next year accordingly, don't you think?
You really want to budget towards you want to have you really think that we're going to have two of the best years we've ever had year after year in a row?
I'm hoping we have 3, 4.
And should we budget for that?
You want to budget for a
If
decrease?
you tell me to budget for that, I'll budget for that. You just tell me what number to plug in, and I'll do it.
I have a very difficult
Yes,
time.
tell me what number to plug in, and I'll do it.
Well, you're the one that's submitting the budget. I'm just challenging
fine.
you on it.
No,
Obviously,
I
you don't think you can make...
No, I don't. I hope I can make it, and I'll do my best to try and hit budgets. But I think it's not. I think it's bad policy to try and budget towards your most optimistic and best plan that you could possibly hit if the weather's absolutely perfect and everything goes exactly right, and we might just hit it. I don't want to budget to that.
You want to budget a loss? If that's your attitude, that's fine. If the board accepts it, that's good.
Tell me what number, and I'll budget to it.
This is his report. We got the budget coming up, and I'm sure it'll be a thrill. Is that all your report?
Well, Cliff, I got one question. The cart barns on 18,
Yes, sir.
are they full? The cart barns on 18, are they full?
No.
18 deer. Okay. I saw somebody parking over here, which I thought we weren't going to let anybody park over here or store their carts. So have we changed something? Or?
I thought the car barns at 18 were awful. That's what I was told.
Because I saw somebody putting their cart in over here. Well, I don't mind if you put stuff in it, but
No.
when we fixed that over there and this one over here, we said we were going to keep all the golf carts over here.
We've been putting some stuff in from our department, so I don't know if that's what you saw, Mike.
No, I'm talking about we got a golf cart. Somebody owns a golf cart parking over here.
All right, I don't know about that, but I know we've been.
And
using
I
it.
don't.
I'll check into that.
Okay.
What are you using, Mike? What are you using it for?
We took some stuff out of the gym, and it's got to go to surplus, so we put it in there for a couple of weeks.
You know, we cleaned the whole place out once.
Well,
certainly
I
don't want
understand that, but I don't want to. We don't want to put it out in the rain and
I
all
know
that.
we have stuff on both sides again, so let's just
No,
be
no,
careful.
no. Okay.
Well, not yours, we
Yeah,
have other things.
yeah. I don't know that.
Let's
But
be
I
careful
mean,
about
I know
it.
we've been over there putting some stuff in there because Ariel needed a place to put stuff. We have new equipment coming in today, so we needed a storage area. That's
All right, Cliff, tell me if it's a good time or I should wait. On the credit book policy, can we talk about that now or you want to wait?
Sure.
I'm still confused on this, so help me one more time. I win $100 of credit through my participation in tournaments.
Okay.
And in the past, I put that $100 on my membership. And you're saying, no, I can't do it. And the reason I can't do it is what?
Why should the district subsidize your dues?
But you've been paid that $100 from the various MGA, LGA people, so you've gotten paid for that money.
Those monies are mostly funded by entry fees.
I'm sorry?
Those monies are mostly funded by entry fees.
Or we also subsidize the MGA and the WGA, so it's not exactly like.
But the MGA, they write them a check.
I know, but it's with our money, a lot of it. What do we give the MGA? $3,500 a year, something like that.
$7,500.
$7,500. Wow.
It wasn't $7,500 this year. That's in the proposed budget. It was less.
It was $7,000, I think, this year.
MGA?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Maybe it was
I believe it was
$5,500.
$5,500.
It's either $6,500 or $7,000.
Same point applies. I mean,
it was $5,500 this year.
I can't imagine that we were letting people do that all along.
Yeah, me too. I'm in
I
full
think
support.
I think it's just bad policy.
It should be used to buy stuff in the pro shop.
All right, here's my point. I don't think we can start this till after next year, after this year. You can't, in the applications, tell people what they think they were going to use that money for. They can't. I think you have to say, this is the last year you can apply it towards your membership, because people are going to come back from up north, and they're going to go, I can't use that money. I've always used that money. It's there. So what I'm saying is, for this current membership drive, they should be able to apply the monies that they have, and then you can tell them, this is the last year we're doing it. Any monies you incur
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's just that's up to the board. I'm okay with that.
Well, I think we're going to ask people to get very upset. Apparently, people rely on this.
I'm okay with that. Fine. You okay, Mike? Mike's drinking coffee.
Okay.
No, I'd like to start it this year. Because I can't believe we okayed that.
Well, you're starting it this year. You're starting it after they pay their dues for this year.
I don't think anybody ever approved that. I think it just happened.
Yeah, I
a
think
whole
it was
lot.
probably another Billy Casper decision.
I don't know about that. But it's also like, the 10% discount to buy stuff for Christmas, and people use that for dues too. And so, I mean, no matter what you do, somebody will take advantage of it. So, yeah, okay, if they've done it before, let them do it this year and tell them they can't do it anymore. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we started. I mean, you could tell them this year that this is it.
I have allocated $11,000 more in pro shop sales for those monies to be
Well,
spent.
you should
in
get
the
it
pro
next
shop.
year. That's for next year's budget. Don't start till October 1st. Everybody supposedly is a member by October 1st. So it won't affect it.
Well, you're going to have the same issue with the Canadians coming back in January and saying, well, wait a minute, I got so-and-so left over from last year. So you might ought to put that in some kind of communication.
I think you just got to honor it for this year and then start it this year, and start it for the people, the membership for next year.
It's fine.
So you're saying calendar year as opposed to fiscal year?
No, I'm saying fiscal year.
Okay.
I'm saying any money
If we
that
do
they,
it, we need to
any
do it.
money
We
that
need to do
people,
it. If we do it, we need to do a calendar year, because we would just be the people who are here on the 3-month. That would just
all I'm
to
saying,
Dan's point.
monies that people start to accrue through victories as of October the 1st cannot be used towards memberships. That's basically what I'm saying.
But kind of what you said before, if they're playing on October 1st, they've already paid their dues. So it's going to happen in that. It's going to happen in the actual money is going to occur. No, I'm saying you're right. That money's going to occur, but we should honor it through. If we're going to do it that way, we need to honor it. We need to be even and fair to all. So that as the Canadians come back January 1, we need to let them do it too.
Anybody who signs up this year, regardless of when they sign up, this is the last year you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If they have credit book balance as of 1st of October, they can use it. If not, they don't.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other? General Counsel, you done? Are we done? Mike, have you done anything? Have you done anything this month? I didn't think so.
Hey,
We
Mike,
gotta wait for the budget, your big chopper.
Mike, I got one thing for you. The construction on Pebble Beach again has come up, and I know there's a swale down there on Pebble on the west side,
By,
past Butts and
Yes.
and that.
yeah,
And my friend Craig Harrod's going to build down there.
right.
Is there? You can try to maybe divert those trucks, or at least.
Well, I tried that
look at
before in the
that
contract.
road to see if we
Yeah.
need to fix it.
Well, right now we're getting the price on to fix it.
Because that road is starting to
Right.
really get bad.
Mhm.
So, and I don't think that's in our list.
No,
road
well,
fixtures.
I talked to the contractor in the past, and he got a little upset with me. He said he spent a lot of money, and he's right. So we are looking to get a price on to fix that. I don't think it's as bad as they think it is, but we are looking into it, and I do know about it, Mike.
I just want
Yeah,
something that I can tell
okay,
them that.
yeah.
But I don't think.
And I haven't even talked to Tanya about that yet either, because I was just approached on it a couple of days ago again.
But I think it's a different contractor that's gonna build that house.
Yeah, it is,
So I
yeah.
thought maybe you could try to get them to divert anyway.
Okay.
That's up,
Yep.
just so give us something that we can tell somebody.
Is that going to
Okay.
tear up the other street you're talking about diverting them to? I mean, what are we
No,
talking about?
no, it's just a culvert, that's bad.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're working on that.
That'll
Thank
probably,
you.
yeah. We've got a lot of those around, and they just pop up. They pop up all the time, but they really pop up when you start driving equipment across them.
Right, exactly.
I haven't
It's the
been back to
concrete
Conroe
trucks
to
and,
find
the lumber trucks and stuff, so.
Yeah, okay.
And thanks to you and Tanya for getting that place on Granada, the dirt level that they had done. That looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Looks a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know if it's your people or Earl's people that are doing the pepper trees, but that is something that's been needed to be done for a long time. So whoever it is,
Well, it's both of us. We're working together on it,
good
so.
for you.
So if it's bad, it's Earl. If it's good, it's me.
Yeah. I have had a couple of questions. Okay, now what do we do? Are we going to let them grow up again, or are we going to make that into rough, or what are we going to do? We can bush hog it, I guess, or something.
There's a product called Garlon that actually kills the pepper stumps once they're cut. We are going to do that. I don't think it's ever been done in the past, but any areas that we're cleaning, we're going to do that. So some of the areas we'll go back, like along the left of 14T on deer. We'll probably plant some love grass in there just to keep that from just looking like a wooded area that we cut out. But yeah, we shouldn't have to deal with that in the future.
Okay. It actually makes number 9 play a lot better. You got more room around that dog leg.
Yeah. I think it was Ray that asked me about it. We went back and did it one more time. We went in and knocked everything down. Then we went back a second time to clean it up. So I think if you see it, you'll be happy with it. So.
Look better. Look better around.
Thank you.
I played Wednesday. It looked better.
Thank you. I like to hear that.
Now that you got your chopper, you'll be all set, baby. You're ready to roll.
All right. I'll order it tomorrow.
Okay, we've tormented Mike enough. The general counsel report.
Just a couple of things. On the litigation report, the Castro foreclosure, Mrs. Castro has filed a counterclaim against the district. I've had Mr. McClory and Mr. Lobozo both look at it, and we're all in agreement that she's taken an inconsistent legal opinion from one of the prior cases, so we're going to respond to that appropriately. The DFC foreclosure, the motion for final default judgment was filed earlier this week. We're expecting a August court date to have that heard, which is going to put us probably at a foreclosure sale date towards the end of the year to give potential developers that were interested in that amount of property time to look into it and come to the foreclosure. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Have we heard anything about Tanglewood, Fifth Third?
From Lewis, Longman, Walker, no, I have not heard from them. I'll reach out to them. I'll send them an email when I get back to the office and ask for a status update.
Thank you.
Any update from the county on the ordinance that was changing the building size?
No, we have not. Tanya and I have been discussing that quite a bit here recently. Okay, Tanya had a phone conference with Ben Dunn, who is one of the guys that we met with. And we met with the county attorney and Mrs. Conrad from zoning. But as far as it actually getting on I said we've made the request to the BOCC. It hasn't made it onto their agenda yet. So that's, as far as we're kind of in limbo until they decide to put it on the agenda. And hopefully that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Do we have any idea what their resistance is?
Yeah, I think that's part of the issue is that they really don't. I don't know if it's they're scared to bring it before the county. I don't really have a feel for what the county attorney thinks, but my guess is it's not going to get her recommendation just because if it causes any liability, all that liability is going to fall on the county. If the county does this, it's them. It's not going to affect us at all. The county's going to be the one that's looking at dealing in any lawsuits. So It may just be if they get it when they get it on the agenda and actually have the meeting, it may be who gets up and shouts the loudest. If it's people from the district saying they want it or people from the district saying they don't, whoever makes the most noise may end up swaying the county. Or I'm assuming Mr. Handley, Commissioner Handley is in our corner, but he may be the only one of the 5. So don't really know.
But we're doing what we can do, and
Correct.
that's not much solace, but
We just keep poking them, asking.
okay. General Manager's report.
I updated you earlier on the interlocal agreement with Highlands County for 50% funding on the shuffleboard courts in the amount of $94,706. I will bring that to the board at the next meeting. And then once it's approved by us, it will go on the county's agenda for approval with them. And then we can begin the process of putting that project out for bid. In addition to that interlocal agreement, last couple meetings at RPAC have been many discussions on how much funding RPAC is going to receive, and the county is cutting the RPAC funding 50% or more. So in those discussions, the county the commissioner liaison is Don Elwell, and he came to the committee and said, okay, municipalities and special districts, what are your priorities for recreation? What do you foresee in the next year or two? So I submitted our priority 1 to Mr. Elwell for the phase 2 recreation complex expansion. As we, and like each municipality said, it's all subject to approval by our boards. I mean, we're not even to that point yet, but the county wants to figure out how much money they should give RPAC. And so the phase 2 of the recreation complex was the bocce, as we discussed. And then we have that slated in as a capital improvement for the next upcoming year. Extra duty.
That's 100% funding in our budget.
In our budget it is. And that is the correct way to budget. You want to budget for the entire project cost, right. And then the 50% would come later from RPAC if approved. Extra duty police officers, 18 days that we have hired the sheriff's office at 3 hours, so that's 54 hours total since first or second week of June. From the data that we've gathered, we have 38 traffic stops, 36 of those have been warnings, and 2 citations. So that's the status on where we are with that.
Do we know how much of that was speeding, how much of that was jaywalking, or what? Or do we have as big a problem with speeding as we were led to believe, or do we know that?
So Chrissy is saying that some of them have been suspicious vehicles. We aren't receiving the detail like I would like to see from those officers, so I was going to reach out to their captain and see if we could get a little bit more details as to what the warnings were for. I do know initially stop signs were a big part of that, running the stop signs. So I'll see what we can do from our end to get a little bit more data.
I mean, I don't care if they write a bunch of speeding tickets. We just want them to slow down, but I'm not sure that we have as big a problem as we were led to believe. Mm-hmm. Second issue, I guess, is for me, where we stand on getting the traffic study.
Well, I was going to give you a quick update on that as well. So
I'm not patient.
Patricia Tice is the engineer and planner that is working with us on this traffic design study. She has gathered all the data and the streets, that we gave her our main thoroughfare streets. We have Ponce de Leon, Columbus, Sunrise was part of that, Matanzas, and Granada, just to name a few. But she's gathered all the data. She used sensors to gather that data, and she's going to bring a full report to the board in about 3 to 4 weeks. She will plan to be here September 27th. I know that's a little ways away, but she wants give you time to look at her report, and she'll do a full presentation to the board at that time. And she's quite an engineer, I will tell you. She has a lot of great ideas, and we have already talked for hours about different ideas. And so I'm very excited for her to have her presentation in front of the board on September 27th. And last thing, paving should start middle of August.
How about the drainage? They haven't finished Edgewater, I guess, that project along there. That's I forget their name. And then we got another contractor over on.
We have another contractor starting, I think, today. Is that right?
Yes.
Dalen's starting today?
Yep.
Okay. That's on. Dalen is working on. Are they Columbus first or Girona?
Yes.
Columbus.
Columbus,
Okay.
yeah, I saw them. They have vehicles out there now. Yesterday they did.
They did. Yeah. So we're.
Do we know how much more that has to be done and when it's going to be done on the Edgewater project?
Over by Edgewater, that we start next week. They were going to try to start this week with the rain and melt them up. They're going to come in and start taking some trees down, all the dead trees, and then the opposite side of the road, the opposite side of the ditch from the road, and then we'll go in with our side on it. So it should be done next week.
Have we done anything on roads yet? Have we done anything on the roads yet?
She just said. Next.
I thought you were talking about drainage.
No. Paving to start in the middle of August. Yes, sir.
The middle of August we start the roads? Okay.
Tanya, I have just one question. I don't know if probably who you talk to is Bob or somebody in the security, but I think I'm the only one that sees these 12 and 13-year-olds or 10 driving golf carts all over. I mean, and I'm not even looking for them. They're passing me and stuff. And the other day on the golf cart course, I had 3 kids and had to be a 12-year-old or 10-year-old driving a cart on the golf course with 2 other passengers. I mean, I don't want them to specifically go, but I run into them all the time.
Yeah, Mike, I can answer that. The age that they can drive it is 14.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
these people
we
are.
stop. Well, I mean, 14. It's stuff. 10, 12. 14. It's stuff that we stop them.
Okay.
Right. A lot of them don't have IDs. Sometimes we follow them home if we don't trust them, and we've done that for years. It's real hard to prove their age unless we go home with them. So.
Well, I just wanted to know if I was the only one that saw it on
No,
a constant
you're not
basis.
the only one. I stopped
Okay.
some. I stopped a couple girls the other day.
Okay.
So I did it myself.
They don't have a driver's license.
And I guess you can't do anything about them on the golf course, but even if they're an adult, they can't be on the golf course.
Right. Exactly. Right.
And they were having the most fun on the golf course, the 3 of them.
Well, I mean, if they drive out there, in the past we used to have Wayne Benson. Wayne was pretty good at stopping them. So, but now we don't have anybody and stuff for the guys in the golf, the golf side to do it because they're not out there all the time either.
Okay.
But we do chase them off.
Very good.
Oh, thank you.
Is that it? Unfinished business?
None.
New business?
None.
Committee report?
None.
Public comment?
Good morning. I like how I sound. Javita McKinney, resident, homeowner. I just had a question for Mr. Omar. That increase, is that going to remain for an extended period of time, or are you going to be opting to do that each year? Do we get to vote on that as residents for that to go up yearly, or like you said, it hadn't been changed for 9 years, right, or 10? So what's like your game
Yeah,
plan
it's something
for
that
that?
comes under review during the budget process. The board's discretion is to look and assess our revenues and then decide whether there should be increases. So there's no projected increases. We kind of just year to year will make that assessment.
And I'd like to put my vote in to have the pool considered as one of the capital projects, an Olympic-sized pool. Because I stopped going to Gold's Gym because they don't have a pool anymore. So I'm going to miss that. And the little bean size one here is cute, but you need to really get those laps in. So that's just my little 2 cents. Also, the kids do have a school ID with the date and everything, so they should be able to at least have that with them. I'm an educator. I know they do those IDs for the kids.
Yeah, they just don't carry them.
Yeah, that you can maybe request that if they're going to be driving a cart. I don't know if you can, but it's just a suggestion. And what was my other question about?
I think we've got the authority to keep them off the golf course. Other than that, it's a law enforcement issue. If they're not of age, they're technically breaking the law, and that's law enforcement. But if they're on the golf course, we have control of the golf course. We can absolutely have them get off the golf course because they're trespassing.
Is this during play time, or are you talking about their joyriding in the evenings? Okay.
That's what Wayne Benson used to do. Late afternoons when there's not much play, Wayne patrol the golf course. There's a lot of people that show up on the golf course and never pay.
Charlie Shields. I promised Jeannie I wouldn't come up here. I'm trying to get my blood pressure up.
I won't tell her.
No, these are just a couple of questions. Don't we have an obligation for another water treatment plant in the future based on growth? Am I missing something?
I know that there's an obligation. At some point, it may become a
bad choice of words, but I mean, there might be a need to, based on population, et cetera.
Correct.
Not at this time. There's not.
No.
But our water plant, water treatment plant,
yeah.
Water plant or wastewater plant.
Both.
Both. There's none slated at this time. No, sir. We don't have the growth, and we haven't had the growth.
Yeah. So what would the tipping point be? What I'm leading to is what Supervisor Brooks brought up of the Europe fund or capital improvement fund. Shouldn't something be allocated yearly till it gets to that point? Or is there someday you just say, whoops, we made it. Now we've got to go get $3 million or whatever it is.
Well, most of those, if I can speak, I know where I was on the city council before, there's we had a big savings for that, but it's so much money, you get a special loan. I mean, however much money we have, we're going to have to borrow money.
The state of
and
Florida.
It's at a special rate.
Well, I may be out of my depth here. It was one of the things that occurred to me when you start talking about amassing money and not having a specific target. And that seemed to me like that was one of the ones we needed to talk about.
Yeah, we do not have that within a 5 or 10 year plan. We do need an updated master plan for utilities, and the state revolving fund program is loaning. They have more money right now than they can give out, and those are 30-year loans at either the interest rate has been either 0.2 or below 0.02. Am I saying that right? Yeah. I mean,
0.2%.
Okay, 0.2%. And then, so in talking recently at the Florida Association of Special Districts Conference, they have more money than they can give out right now for that type of infrastructure improvements. So.
Okay, well, I don't want to drive a whole conversation. I just wanted to.
Charlie, if I could respond as well, we're at about between 50 and 60% capacity in the sewer. Is that correct? And the maximum usage, which is in January.
For Unit 23, we have seen up to 75%, and that's with a lot of infiltration of water, and that's been a big problem. We had manhole inspections recently, and our goal is to see that, especially during Irma, we had the infiltration, but on the other plant, average is about 17%. So we have an imbalance of where the flows are going and maybe where they should be. I don't want to go into too many details, without Drew necessarily, but.
Bottom line is we got 10 years worth of growth at least before we need it. We probably would wind up having to interconnect the two wastewater plants, but we're also doing the infiltration study, starting it this year. Basically,
all I know is 10 years is not a long time when you get caught short.
It's longer than some of us have.
Yeah. The other one's not as serious. you didn't give us a chance to comment on the logo. Okay? I do not, in my deepest dreams, want this to be a resort. It's a golf community. It's a golf destination. And anything that leaves golf out of the logo is the wrong thing. All right. And the last thing is for Cliff. You said you were cutting back on chemicals. We're not getting rid of the fire ants, are we? Because they're still out there.
We will retreat with all the rain they have came up. So.
Well, I haven't been out there in 3 weeks. So.
I got bit Tuesday.
Sorry for taking your time.
Paul Carolyn again. My first question has been answered. That was regarding the dues and so on. But I just really kind of wanted to regurgitate what Charlie just mentioned as an example that, you know, if you know there's a big expenditure down the line at some point, you know, looking into it. And as an example, back north where I'm on the board of directors, a resort basically went into, you know, it went broke. And when we took it over, it had not taking over the whole thing. It had been separated by the attorneys and judges in the foreclosure. And the resort lost the swim club, which included all the recreational things. So it was under private ownership. And very important to that resort was that you had those facilities. And so we said, well, if the owner decided to put it on the market, we have got nothing in our budget or no dollars set aside to make a purchase. So we put aside in the budget a separate line item strictly for the swim club, and the board of directors had, in this particular case, decided upon allocating $100,000 a year. Now that was the amount they came up with. That would be there strictly for the swim club so that when it came on the market, we would have enough revenues to at least address the down payment and work with the banks and so on. But as Charlie said, you know, you've got to plan ahead of that, and I'm sure you are. But, you know, whether it's a separate line item or whatever that huge expenditure might be, other than just your normal reserve items or capital items, you know, plan ahead and allocate some dollars.
Thanks, Paul. Anybody else? Okay. Next is discussion to and from board. You're quiet.
Well, I already asked about 7 minutes.
Nothing else.
Wow. Let's take a 10-minute break. And then, pardon? 5-minute break? All right, that works for me. 5 minutes break. Omar, are you going to lead this discussion, or what?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start off. We'll look at the budget summary, first page 1, and then we'll jump into golf, and these guys can take it from there. But I just want to highlight some of the major changes on this, on page 1. So at the last meeting, the budget, we're budgeting a total deficit of $350,000. Currently, with the changes that have been made, it's now down to $315,700. So we've made some changes within the golf fund and just some minor changes in the general fund. So I think it's probably easiest if we just jump into golf, go through what the changes were and what caused the $40,000 impact to take place.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Philosophically, I have a problem with a negative at the bottom.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out how to increase the income, decrease the expenses, or prioritize the capital projects.
Correct.
You talking about the 315? That number?
I know you'll hate that, right?
Well, it's all in one place. It's fine.
So jumping to page 5, we've highlighted in yellow what the changes have been from budget 2 to budget 3. First one that stands out is membership revenue. We decreased that by $13,450, largely in relation to the discount, the cash discount that takes place, prior year trends, and then the 1% membership increase that we projected. We felt like the $1 million number was more in line with what's going to actually take place, our better projection in our mind. So we dropped that down to $1 million. The golf transfer in from the general fund, we split into 2 lines on this going forward. So we have $177,250 coming from the general fund, and then the other $45,000, we've shown the split of the $70 that comes from the golf course lot assessment. So that's how we get to the $222,250. And then to balance out the remaining golf budget, we decreased golf course maintenance, and then we made some slight adjustments across G&A, maintenance, food and beverage, and marketing to balance it out. Is there any major questions for the golf fund on any of these changes?
So we're on the golf fund, right?
Correct.
Okay, so one more time, Cliff, just so I understand. According to the May 30th numbers, you're going to beat last year by $103,000. That's your. I mean, I'm reading the numbers, right?
No, I mean, we tend to spend more money.
No. Wait a minute.
No, we tend to spend more money in the summertime on the.
Same as last year. I asked you that earlier.
Yeah.
I said you'll spend about the same amount of money.
It'll be a
as last
tiny
year.
bit more, but yeah,
So
about.
but your number when you projected to beat last year by 103,000. That's your projected 2018-19.
Yeah. Where are we at here on number?
Here we go.
Page 6, Cliff. Page 6 shows you the estimated.
The estimated actual is $103,000 in golf.
Better than last year, right? Or is that just you're going to make?
No, that's
just for this year.
Operating income for this year.
Oh, you're going to make
last year was $73,000, so it's $30,000 more.
All right, you're going to make. You claim you're going to make 103, and you're only planning 58. And do you know
so the 58. So let's look at that. Okay. So if we have the golf course maintenance from 569 to 608, the biggest bulk of that is overseeding turtle. Okay, so that's an extra $27,000 in overseeding. That's not in that budget. And then if you look at sales and marketing from 55 to 75, I'm trying to put in $20,000 for kind of a grand reopening and some extra marketing funds. So if you look at those, so it's really about it's about the same, really. So if we take out the 2 expenses that are not in this calendar year budget, we're really kind of right on that same number.
I give.
So do you question, or are we saying without question? Speaking of micro, are we saying without question we're going to oversee turtle? Or are we saying we're going to make that decision? Or are we saying we put the money in and
the money's in the budget now?
So we may or may not do it, or are we definitely going to do it?
We're planning on doing it unless you guys tell us not to. Unless you say save the money, we won't do it. But we're recommending that we oversee turtle.
Even if turtle is great right now, much better than deer. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Are you looking for somebody to blame? Is that it? If we tell you not to, then you're...
No. Based on what we had last year, and I felt really, as I said before, I felt really good last summer. Everybody was happy with turtle. We had grass where we never had it. It's what people kept saying. With all that said, we still, so my recommendation, if we want a foolproof January 1 to April 30th, lusher, better fairway condition on turtle, I would recommend overseeding. And I'm not, transition all aside, I think we'll be fine with the way we do the rotations this year. Obviously, we rotated deer first, and we were closed longer because we had the project going on. But next year, if we overseed turtle, my recommendation when I do the summer schedule would be to obviously close turtle first and have it maybe closed an extra week so that we can get through some of the transition stuff. But
I mean, turtle in the past, we used to overseed both. We went away from overseeding turtle, and it was so good we decided not to overseed either one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have.
And we could, based on the fact that we're going to probably get through 4 airifications on fairways this summer, and last summer we did 1. Is it going to be better? Yes. I just, that was really, it was unfortunate because last year I felt like greens, everything were in really good shape, but people were unhappy with fairways, and it was the majority of people who only come here for a certain period of the year. So I had said over and over in golf committee, if we want to kind of eliminate that negative, the best way to do that is to overseed. So I know they're good right now, and I think they'll be better and better even into the fall. But I
don't think the golf committee should make the decision on overseeing turtle.
Well, and I'm not saying they are, but I'm here to take care of you guys. And if the feedback I get is that it wasn't the condition we wanted, then I have to try to recommend something that I think will better that.
We don't want a repeat of last year. I don't care what the golf committee says.
Yeah.
We don't want a repeat of last year. We want you to do what is necessary to not have a repeat of last year.
So currently we have overseeding in there. And
unless
it was a budget issue.
I voted for it strictly on your recommendation. Yeah. And the only thing I have is if it turns out as bad as it was last year, then I don't want to do it next year. And that's all
Sure.
I mean, you're the one that's supposed to know. I'm going to back you because you asked us. So, but if it ends up the same way, then I'm not going to vote for it next year. If I'm here,
it won't.
I might not even be here.
It's a different
process
altogether.
It ends up the same way. A lot of us. Cliff, I got one. So tell me on the expenses. It's $40,000 for overseeing. What was the other thing?
No, it's like $28,000 for expenses for the overseeding for turtle.
Yeah.
And $20,000 extra for more sales and marketing.
Oh, for more sales and marketing?
Yeah.
$20,000. So you're about $48,000, $50,000 in expenses more than last year.
Correct. There are a few variables all the way across the board everywhere.
Yeah. So
but those things are just not at all
so
in the budget.
So when we see your next financials, theoretically, if you're going to make $150,000, $100,000 would be a good number to plan for, because you got $50,000 you're going to spend, right?
I'm not following you. I'm sorry.
I'm going to wait and see what your next month looks like, and I'm saying if it looks like you're trending to make $150,000, I think you ought to plan for $100,000, because you said you $50,000.
Shouldn't we be planning on that trend right there? I mean, that minus 139, minus 171.
Where are you? I'm sorry.
On a net operating income loss. Okay.
Minus what?
So.
I'm looking at I'm talking about golf.
I'm just saying from 2018 and 2019.
Yeah.
We've had exceptional weather years. We just have, and we're in the weather business. We are. It's we went through.
I'm using your own words. If you're going to make $150, and
I will make as much money as I possibly can without affecting member service.
But with the expenses, do you know what? When you do a budget, the expenses are part of the budget. I'm saying if it doesn't have more, that's fine.
It doesn't. What does that have to do with what I'm projecting to do next year? I'm trying to average these years to kind of together a little bit.
Average what years? You're averaging.
I'm trying to. I mean, we're gonna. Maybe that 103. I'm hoping is is super conservative. Let's see if we can make a little bit more money as we get through the end of this year, and that's higher. That'd be great. But if we look at the trend, I mean, those were, we went through January, February, and March with only 2 frost delays, and we never had a course closure. We got the frost delays off at 9. We didn't miss a day. We never had a Sunday rain.
I'm not arguing about your revenues, Cliff.
No, I'm just saying it's great, and I hope it's better. But I'm just trying, and even with the $58,000, and let's add $50,000 to that, I'm really budgeting to at least match or to do a tiny bit better than what we did this year.
You keep telling me about the weather. The weather affects your revenues,
Absolutely.
not your expenses. Nobody has
no
challenged.
Revenues. No, that's not true. That if I'm doing it effectively, my expenses should flex with my revenues. Okay, so if I don't have the business in the restaurant, I'm going to cut people. We're going to cut labor.
I'm talking golf. Golf only.
Golf is a little bit the same way. Golf is not 100% fit. I mean, golf has more fixed costs than it does, but part of our job is to flex those revenues. If we ended up with a year where it just rains every Friday and it rains every Saturday, and if it's one of those and it's 26 degrees for 2 weeks in January, we're going to flex expenses to try and help with the budget. And that's part of our job.
I'm not challenging your revenues. I'm not challenging. They're fine. That's what you believe in. That's fine. All I'm challenging is your expenses, because I think the profitability of golf is not where I think it should be. And you have yet to give me a reason that I'm wrong. That's all I'm saying to you.
Okay.
So we'll look at it next month and we'll see what you're trending at, because there'll only be 3 months left. Fair enough?
Okay.
If we look at the trend line for the bottom line, I like what I'm seeing, that we were negative 139, negative 171. We were going in the wrong direction. Then we were 73,000. This year we're looking at 103 or better, but next year we're dropped down to 58. That's not a good part of the trend line. Now you're saying the 73 and the 103 are anomalies and we shouldn't expect that?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, we've artificially increased expenses in this budget proposal by the overseeding and by the extra marketing expenses.
So I guess to Cliff's point is the current 58 that's budgeted, if we took out the overseeding, we took out that marketing increase, he's budgeting for a $100,000 projection, which matches this year. One thing I'd like to point out, which once again I know we want to budget as close as possible to actuals. If you look at this year's amended budget, we only budgeted to make $26,000, and
right.
he's projecting to make $100,000. So just because we set a budget of $58,000 doesn't mean he's still not going to make $100,000. He's just saying he's projecting more increases in the overseeding and in that marketing.
I don't disagree with you. I hope he beats his budget.
Right.
But the expenses are based on the budget.
Right. But at the same time, once again, there's always going to be anomalies. Let's say labor. Labor right now is $100,000 less than that. That could be because of turnover. There could be a multiple influxes. So we don't want to go and cut labor by $100,000 just because this year's actual was $100,000 less. There's always going to be discrepancies between actual and budget. We want to budget for what we think is going to happen, and then it's always going to come out a little bit better in actuality.
Most companies don't budget for a loss.
And he's not budgeting for a loss. Once again, if you want to take out the overseed and the marketing, he's going to budget for $100,000.
He's budgeting for a loss.
He's budgeting for $58,000.
I don't care what he's putting into it. He's budgeting for a loss.
He's budgeting for $58,000 profit in golf
against something that's over $100,000. That's a loss. No matter how you look at it, it's a loss. Come on.
From this year,
it's a decrease. It's not a loss.
Correct. It's a decrease because he's adding more.
I'm sorry. A decrease is not a loss.
Okay.
No.
He is budgeting a decrease in income because of two unusual expenses. pretty simple. We can say, okay, we don't want, and you just heard him, we don't want you to oversee.
Exactly.
He's more than happy not to oversee.
Correct.
We don't want him to do a big grand opening and spend 20 grand. We can tell him not to do that too.
Correct.
I think it would be not real smart, but we can do it. The real issue to me is that we need to be more revenue driven, and I don't want to project excessive revenues, put it that way, given the fact of the weather. That's what's revenue driven. And if you look at it from, we're going to do $1,088,000 in course and driving range fees, and we just went up on our average rates, we probably are a little bit light, but we might have a lot of frost delays. There's a lot of things that can happen. So I think we need to budget realistically, and I think that's a realistic budget. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't argue that it's realistic. My concern is if we're increasing the cost of the overseeding to make the courses better to encourage more play, and we're doing the marketing to encourage more play.
It's not. We can't do any more play during that time period. We're full. I mean, we're sending out. I mean, we can do.
So why are you increasing marketing?
We can do rounds at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
It's during that January through March time period. It's all about taking care of members.
Okay, but if you're in fact full, why would you increase your marketing?
That's basically the food and beverage.
It's going to be at most. The marketing is going to be focused on food and beverage.
Yeah,
and if I get any bleed over in the golf, that's just a great thing.
All of this stuff is all mushed up together. You
Okay,
don't really have an honest to goodness P&L on either one.
Yeah, because what I'm looking at here is we're finally separating golf and food and beverage, but you're saying you're increasing your golf marketing to increase your food and beverage, not your golf.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and
it's just
sales and marketing may be an allocation that we split differently. So right now we're doing a 60-40 split to golf, 60, and maybe if our marketing. So once again, that goes back to we're recreating these splits based on how.
Let me ask you this one: if we're looking at it from a total standpoint, you're estimating this year we're going to lose 149,550. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to spend little over $1 million in the kitchen, and next year we're going to lose $222,250. Is that correct?
Correct.
Nobody has a problem with that.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different discussion. We've been talking about golf.
Well, I mean, because I think it's okay. I mean, then that's my next question. How's that?
The sales and marketing expense is allocated based on a formula. So much to golf and so much to food and beverage. So the only number that really makes any difference is 50,075. So you're talking 125, right? Am I thinking correctly? If you add the sales and marketing and the food and beverage and exactly.
So it's a
so
question.
you've actually gone up. I don't know how much. I can't add those in my head. 90 to 125. So you actually gone up $35,000 in marketing.
Correct.
You add them together because it's an allocation.
The marketing.
Pardon? Correct.
Okay, so this year's estimated actual $93,000. Our budget this year is $124,000.
Right. So he hasn't spent that much.
Correct.
But that's a budget between everybody, right? For marketing, or is that just his?
That's just
food and beverage and golf.
But my point is,
It's combining the two lines.
my point is, this is an allocation. This isn't a. This one goes here and that one goes there. If you spend 100,000, 60 of it's going to golf and 40 of it's going to food and beverage.
But we're okay with losing another 90,000 more than this year. Planning that.
Apparently.
Well, I can't support that budget. I can tell you now, from one vote, mine would be no, based on those numbers.
Where do you see the $90,000?
I don't see 90,000.
Well, he says we're gonna drop 149,550. Right? That's his estimate, and now he's estimating we're gonna drop next year 222,250. That's roughly, maybe I didn't do.
Yeah, he's combining the two. Overall, we're losing 70,000 on this.
So he just explained 50 grand of it. You're going to oversee Turtle, and you're going to spend more on marketing. And if you look at the increase in marketing in the food and beverage, that's the rest of it. In essence, we're spending the money to fix the restaurant. We ought to be doing $1.5 million, $1.7 million in sales, in which case all that goes away.
Right.
But it would be kind of dumb to go from 0, which is where we're going to be, to wide open. I mean, I think we should project a transition year, is what I'm trying to say. Do we think we're going to really lose 222? Probably not.
I would just like to see.
I hope not either. I mean, but in golf, and now we're talking about food and beverage, in that you can see the payroll expenses. I'm budgeting for I mean, we're open. I mean, we're open from 11 o'clock till 8 or 9 or 10 every single night. You know, I mean, we're open 72 to 80 hours a week. You know, I'm trying to get management coverage really 95 or 100% of the time, and I want to hire another floor manager, and there's another expense that's outside of what we're doing this year. So I mean, look at that 757 to 803. I mean, that's a whole other person, and so a floor manager, and then again the sales and marketing, the 37 to 50. I'm really budgeting about the same number, but I'm adding some services, mostly to take care of membership.
To me, the discrepancy is we're going to do $1,253,000 this year in sales, and we're projecting $1,369,000, so $120,000.
Whether it's the overseating or whether it's the new manager, I'm trying to add services to take care of membership. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to do.
If we do another $200,000 in sales in the restaurant, that takes you to better than we are this year. The real issue is we're not doing enough volume for the overhead.
And we're spending the money on marketing, but not showing enough return on the investment. So, if we're going to spend another $70,000 on marketing, we should ideally be making another $100,000.
Sure.
Well, you guys are working towards it, but my big complaint the 3 years I've been here is that we don't separate the two, and we're starting to do that.
Right.
Which helps me a lot. And one of the biggest complaints that I get as a supervisor is that I know you want a new manager, but the problem's anybody from the outside that looks at our stuff says we have too much management costs as it is. Now, I'm going along with you if that's what you want, but it's to me you're getting better at breaking it apart where. Because all we're doing is guessing sometimes, and I appreciate that, but I'm just skeptical about the cost that we have for the money we're doing. But you know, like I said, I got to trust you guys, but I haven't liked it the 3 years I've been on the board. But I think it's getting better. But it's just. So,
well, last month I was hearing that we didn't have enough management, that we needed to have a manager on duty and mandate a manager on duty at all times the restaurant was open. So,
yeah, well, I agree with that, but you see
that's
the cost of our management?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't say we got to hire another person, but we can't pay them. So.
Yeah. So
it's the cost of the management, not what we do. I mean, for the amount of money that we get, we have a big amount of management.
Yes, and that's part of balancing customer service. You know, you can have a better return on margin of food and beverage in a McDonald's than you can in a full service restaurant. Full service restaurants don't have a big margin.
Yeah, you don't have any wait staff.
I'll tell you, I'll be happy to lose the vote 4-1. but I can't support the budget. I just can't support those numbers. I'm sorry. It's only me. One vote.
Yeah, it's hard to justify, and I don't know whether, we just spent $600,000 on improving the restaurant, and the return on investment.
That number's $1.3 million.
Okay. The return on investment is not there, and we're not showing a lot of improvement there. And I don't know if it's that we really don't believe that we're going to get that return on investment. And I don't know how.
But when we did it, was a huge return on investment the reason why we did it?
Not really.
Was it?
What's that?
The restaurant Lanai renovation was return on investment the reason we did the renovation?
Certainly had to be a consideration, don't you think?
Well, yes, but was that the?
Not for me.
Was that the? I mean, was that the main?
It was an attempt to improve services for the residents of the district, because every time we turn around, you schedule Aunt Matilda's wedding or anniversary or funeral or whatever.
Or we're closed on Monday nights, and we're closed on Wednesday nights, and we're closed on Saturday nights.
Exactly.
You know, it was an effort to provide better service, and secondarily to try and make a little bit of money along the way. But it was the reason we did it was the longevity of the business and the providing better service. Just simply not saying no to people anymore.
Just for grins, if that food and beverage number is $1.6 million on sales, if you drive the rest of that through, you're getting pretty darn close to break even. And that's where we need to be, getting pretty darn close to break even. Now, am I going to beat you up to say you got to go from $1.25 million to $1.6 million or $1.7 million? I could, I guess. I don't think it's smart. I think you're probably a little low on your sales. I think you're going to do better.
I'm not saying we can't get there in a year or two or three.
Exactly.
You know,
that's what I'm trying to say.
It's going to take a little time to not only kind of learn the dynamics of the new business, but it's going to take time to actually build up that sales base again.
Well, honestly, you also have.
It is.
I'm going to be careful how I say this. You have a reputation to live down, if you will.
We do, and everybody thinks we're private, and we have and everybody who's come in and said, "Oh, we're full. You can't sit down." It's going to take some time to build the business back up. That's my point.
And that's the whole point.
You forget. You gave us a bunch of numbers. You gave us you gave us numbers.
I said we want to make it.
You gave us numbers saying, if you give me this kitchen, if we do this kitchen, these are the numbers I can deliver. And you can't even do that on a projection now.
He didn't say he could do it day one, and that's really the issue. We have to be reasonable.
Yes, he did. He had each year outlined $20,000 better to the bottom line. Correct?
Once you get to break even.
He had it for this coming year. I didn't put it down. I'm not writing this. He's writing it.
Okay. Are we going to continue to beat this horse, or are we going to?
No.
You give up?
Again,
all right.
If you want to see a different number, tell me the number, and I'll see what I can do to make changes to hit it.
I would point out this one thing. If you look at the budget for 2018-2019, the projected loss was $356,000. Right?
Yeah.
He's doing $100,000 better than that.
That's the budget. Yeah.
Which, put it in golf vernacular, looks like maybe he's a sandbagger and we need to challenge the budget a little bit more.
I wouldn't disagree with that, and assuming assuming that we are in this position next year, it would be a lot more difficult to slide this one through. But yeah, I mean, I think to me the issue is more with the food and beverage, and it's the issue with the sales. If he's really not going to do more sales than that, he's probably not going to have that many people. You know, you deal with it.
Yeah. Personally, I'd like to see the sales number in food and beverage go up $100,000, knowing that the expense is going to go up along with that. But I think a little challenge there is good for everybody, and will make the budget look a little bit better.
Pick a number.
100,000 plus on the revenue, and you adjust the expense accordingly, because I know you're going to have increased expenses on that, so.
$1,469.
Yeah.
I just think the reason why most of us voted for it is, and I certainly didn't vote for the lanai in the kitchen to do more damage to our residents, just so you can make the money too. I mean,
Well, now that's what it. I mean, you know that's the message, right?
Well,
that's the message.
From a few,
so
I
the
hear
message
that.
the message is make the money.
Well,
so that's the message.
You didn't hear that from me.
I know, but that's the message.
And I did not vote for this so you could rent this place out more. I didn't. And so you're going to do what you're going to do, but I didn't vote for that.
Well, he's looking for guidance from the board, and I'm suggesting that we do
kind of what
need
you're
to-
saying too, though. So you're expecting me to do a $225,000 increase in the first year without affecting member service?
Yes, but understanding that in this year you've got a reduction for the summer because you haven't had a full restaurant. So it's not really $225,000 because you've had a decrease for the summer in this year's budget.
I mean, it's all a guess.
Yeah.
It's all a guess.
So let's leave it the way it is, and I'll be the only one who votes no.
I mean, I tried to base those numbers a little bit more off of previous years.
Oh, I understand. And the hope is that with the new investment in the restaurant,
and then with our temporary kitchen, we've really put a big dent in those budget numbers.
Right.
Obviously.
Yep.
So we're recouping a whole lot more versus budget. There's my sandbagging. So because of that, we're recouping a whole lot more of those budget numbers. I mean, we're doubling and tripling, or even more. I mean, we're going to make $80,000-$100,000 more money. I mean, in revenue, but I mean, obviously there's cost of sales and labor, and I mean, we might make $10,000 more at the end of the day, but that's kind of going to change the number a little bit.
What he's basically saying is he budgeted $1.1 million in sales, and it's $1,250,000.
Yeah.
$1,250,000. And that's basically what we're all saying is that a rising tide lifts all ships. So once you get to the break-even point in sales, everything looks good from that point forward, but it takes you a while to get there. I'm personally willing to give him 12 months to get it up.
Fine, I'll give him 12 months. In defense of Cliff, I think one of his biggest problems is the board never really decided what they want the restaurant to be and went on record for it.
Right. I agree with that.
That's been a conversation that I brought up, that has been brought up for 2 years, and we still haven't made a decision. And we're going to spend $1.3 million, and we still don't know or agree.
You got the same issue. If you want to maximize income, you're going to minimize service to the residents. If you want to maximize income out of the golf course, you've already got the members' dues. So you say, members, you can't play but 2 times a week during the busy season, and we're going to sell all those tee times. That's never going to work.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen if we don't.
That's a short-term solution to a long-term problem. And next year, you're not going to have that $1 million in sales to members because you're not going to have that many members. Because when you start telling me I can only play golf twice a week, why would I want to be a member? I mean, that's really the issue. So are we looking at a short-term solution or a long? Pardon?
Where did twice a week come from?
Well, that's what happens.
That's what I'm saying. If you tell him he's got to maximize the income out of the golf course, the simplest thing to do is say, members, you're restricted as to the number of times you can play. That's exactly what Global Golf said to do. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what
I'm not going to do that.
No, I'm not going to vote to do that. But I'm just saying we got to strike a happy medium here between taking care of the members, taking care of the residents, and minimizing the losses.
My comment was on the kitchen. We have never decided what we want to happen with the restaurant side. That's all I'm saying. That's fact.
I think I made a decision. I've talked to Cliff.
Well, you made a decision, but you're one.
I know, but
well, that doesn't count.
That's why that's the 3 of us, I think, that voted for it had that.
Right.
because we were promised they weren't going to take away member services.
We haven't had this conversation. How could three of you already decided?
The people that voted for the restaurant.
We voted for it in January.
People who voted for the restaurant.
There was 4 votes for the restaurant. Oh, 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So they've already decided what they want the restaurant to be. It's just a secret.
No, I told Cliff. I didn't tell anybody else, but I told Cliff
I'm sorry.
what I wanted.
We've never declared officially. Or
I
agreed.
told Cliff myself.
Mike, that's fine. You told them. Good.
So apparently somebody else told him something too, because it passed.
Wow. I thought we built the kitchen, not built the way we were going to do everything.
This is the budget discussion. I don't know why we're going back and trying to undo what we already did. We need to move forward.
I'm at this point.
So is the general consensus to accept these numbers?
That's fine with me. I'd like to see him better, but I don't want to pin him down to something he's got to do that he'll negatively impact residents in trying to make them.
So if we increase the revenue we increase the budget revenue for the restaurant by $100,000, do you think that would decrease what you can do for the residents and the members? My guess is you're going to try to get there anyway.
I'm gonna try. You're right, but
And you're going to run the operation the best for the operation, whether we increase the number or decrease the number. You're still going to be operating things as best as you can for.
I mean, we're gonna. My bet is I don't think in year one I could touch that, but I could. But so let it go. I think in 2 or 3 years I think we can build up that customer base. But it's going to take some work. It just doesn't happen. I just can't do it by wiggling my nose. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some time to kind of figure out how it all kind of works together too. I mean, it's going to take. It's just because we're going to be ready October 1. There's going to be a period of time where there's going to be a little pain, just kind of getting used to 100 more seats, hiring more people. The new dynamic. There's going to be some pain. That's all I'm saying.
I look at this as a transition budget. 2020 would be is a whole different animal. That way you know what you're doing. That way we know what it ought to be. I would expect you to blow that number away, but I hope you will.
Yeah, I hope we do too. But I can accept it if that's where the board wants to go.
And Cliff, I think you, unless I'm wrong, you made a commitment to look at January, February, and March, and look at how many times you rent it out during that time. I think we had a discussion in the board meeting.
Yeah, we're actually decreasing the times. There's several events that we're just. I don't know. Several is the right word. There's 2 or 3 events that we're simply just not going to be able to do.
Okay.
And we didn't even talk about the calendar year problems that we're losing. Some of our 2 biggest events, we're losing them in this calendar year.
Yeah, I knew that.
Remember the Habitat event and the hospital event.
I like to have on the next meeting a conversation where the board decides on what we want the kitchen to be, and we all agree to it. Not that it's decided by one member.
I don't think anybody decided anything like that, Ray, and I don't think it's
my-
possible for this board to come up with a consensus.
Well, we're a board. We're supposed to make decisions.
I think we did.
No, I think you did. I think the rest of us should have a voice.
There was 3 of us.
What do you mean?
Voted
I'm
to have
tired of this 3 of us.
What do you want? I mean, what do you? We
I
got
want
a
to
kitchen.
know. I
We're
don't
going to have a
agree.
restaurant.
Perhaps I don't agree with what you guys are thinking. Is that possible?
Wait, when are you going to get
Look
over
at
it?
anything.
It's 3. That's what this is all about. 3 votes.
Did we vote on this? I'm sorry. We voted on the kitchen,
Yes,
the
we
money
did.
for the kitchen.
Yes.
That's what we voted on.
Yes.
What's that got to do with what I'm talking about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
We're not sure
gonna
what
have
you're
a
talking
restaurant.
about, but we voted in January on the remodel of the restaurant and the kitchen You and I both thought we needed more discussion to determine what it was we were trying to accomplish. 3 felt there had been enough discussion over the last 2 years. It had been discussed to death, and we needed to move forward.
Correct.
So we moved forward.
That's right.
Now,
Okay.
but we're not going to tell him what the menu, I'm not going to tell him you got to have an Italian restaurant in here or you got to have a
Guys, you're
Mexican
telling them
restaurant in
everything
here.
else.
Tell him
You're
anything.
telling them everything else. You're telling them how many events. You're telling them everything else. You might as well tell them the damn menu.
Fine. I'll tell you what the menu is. All right. Are we through?
I think we're through.
All right. Move on.
So I guess go ahead and just jump over to page 7 and discuss some of the capital. We provided some backup for the majority of the items changes. There was really no new items, so the number stayed at the 440. So is there any questions regarding the detail for, let's say, the restroom or the driving range mat or curbing?
I'm going to have a hard time jumping on $440,000 worth of capital expenditures when we're showing a negative $350,000. So I think we need to talk about priorities. It's $45,000 worth of that's already committed, equipment and golf lease. So we're basically talking about $190,000. So I think we need to talk about priorities. If we look at the total budget of $3 million, if you will, maybe, and we're negative 300, then we probably got 10% we need to take a look at somewhere. To me, the Turtle Run restroom is probably the most highest priority. Rest of it I can live with one way or the other. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what you think, Earl, Cliff. What would your priority be? Which one could you do without, I guess?
Well, see, I would say the first thing to do without would be the mat for us, I think. The curbing and the front entrance landscaping, we really felt that first impression stuff is really high on the list, and I don't think we're putting our best foot forward a lot of times as people just drive into the place, and that would probably be our top priority. The ladies would say different. They would say the tee improvements, the aqua tees would be the most important. But I mean that really that affects 10-12% of our membership. But I guess for me it'd be curbing in front entrance 1, restrooms 2, tees 3, driving range mat last.
Not saying that we wouldn't ever do the driving range, but possibly push it into the following year, or assuming we're having a better year than we thought, we could always revisit. Because you're going to know by April what it's going to look like, really.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? You guys care about the driving range being in this year? Or
I was happy with that. I'm good with the 440.
So you have somewhere else you think we ought to come with $300,000?
We're so far ahead in this calendar year. There's always that opportunity to move something up into this year.
Can we do that, Tanya?
No.
Or
do the restroom?
By the time we take it out for bid and all those things, we couldn't finish the restrooms, but we already.
For what it's worth, I'd like to keep the 440.
But we can start it. I'm not saying we can start it.
Okay, well, we can. I'm outvoted 3-1, I guess. It's all right with me.
Versus last year. It's actually going to end up 200,000. Oh. Did
what?
Omar sent an email to the board yesterday afternoon with the capital? So we are projecting $200,000 to remain in the golf capital fund from Number one, the savings with Mondragon. Number two, not starting the John Deere lease until, 6-7 months in. We could start a project with the funding that we have remaining in that account if that is something the board wants to entertain.
Well, I just don't want to, all of those are very good things. I wouldn't be in favor of cutting any of them.
So are you saying we can keep that 200,000 and then use it? Is that what you're saying?
We can use it, yes. We could use it.
Which would make that number 240.
I love it.
Versus 440.
I'm
We're
good
not
with
changing because we had already budgeted that money.
Well, we couldn't.
But we're still
Not
giving,
that, but I mean,
we still
as far
give them
as that money.
$330,000, right?
We're just moving it up 3 months.
Huh?
Just moving it 3 or 4 months out.
We're not doing it in that, we're not doing it in the next fiscal year. What we're doing is saying that we're going to do 200,000, so maybe they start immediately on the front entrance landscaping and the turtle restrooms and
the restrooms. I don't think they could do because of engineering and permitting, but I could certainly do the curbing and the front entrance.
We're giving you $330,000 this year. That's what we're giving the golf.
No,
we're not asking for
if
more
we
money.
use 200,000 of this
What we're
year's
saying
money,
is we didn't
we're
use
only giving
200
them
grand that we
170
were
next
allotted
year.
No,
already.
you're giving them $330,000. If you use the $200,000 from the capital expense budget, we're still giving them $330,000. Right?
So in the grand scheme of things, right now our projected deficit this year is $1.3 million because of the kitchen renovation. So basically you'd be making this year's deficit 1.5 versus next year making it 4. So all you're doing is washing 1 year with there's no excess of 200,000 anywhere. We have that $1 million kitchen sitting out there, which is a deficit in this year's budget. So if you look at page 1 again, in our projection we use 600,000 for capital expenditures. If you use 100,000, that makes that bottom line go down 100,000. So it's this year, next year really is the same pot of money. There's no difference.
The difference in the net.
That
In the net,
1.3 that we're short, that's going to come out of the general fund, right?
Correct. So this year you just be dipping into that this year and then putting it back in next year. It's one way or the other. It's going to be a net wash.
I don't care. If you want to do it, do it.
Well, it accomplishes a couple of things. We get the Turtle Run going, Turtle Run restroom, which is going to be very important too. In January, it'd be good to have it done by then if we could. I don't care when we do it.
And it also shows us still positive to last year's budget and a lesser deficit for this year's budget, or for the coming year's budget. So yes, it is a wash financially, but on paper, it looks a lot better.
Exactly.
So if the board is okay, we can start the permitting and engineering process on the Turtle Run restrooms, and Earl can finish that architect. You have an architect helping you with that front entrance? We can start that process within a month, and those numbers would come out of the budget. So out of next year's budget. So 60,000 would be removed. Is that correct? We have 25,000 for curbing and 25,000 for front entrance landscaping.
On the curbing, one thing I cautioned that came up a couple months ago is that we need to be sure that whatever curbing we do doesn't make it more difficult for people with handicaps. Because right now there's comments that the handicap have a hard time getting to the driving range. And the curbing could make it worse instead of better.
Can we show the board at the next meeting what we would do for the front entrance? Like a visual? Okay.
And I would just I talked to Tanya about it, but the restroom, with the one she showed us, I would like to see a place for vending if we could. It might help not putting a cart out there.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, move along.
So we'll go ahead and jump to, if we're done with golf. Mike needs to get out of here, so we're going to jump to page 19, the general fund. And then there was one change to the capital equipment, went from 65,000 to 69, so we removed the requested edger and replaced it with a chipper.
Okay, so do we really need a chipper that'll take down a 12-inch tree?
No. The quote we have that we've given to the board, Mike, is a 12-inch.
Right.
Okay. Are we requesting another quote?
We roughed it out, we demoed it, and it's a little smaller one. Not much difference in money, so that's why we kind of stayed with the one the 12-inch one. Earl can answer about the problems and all that stuff there, and why we want a bigger one, because
chippers are, they base the size based on the caliber of tree you can actually fit through the chipper itself. It doesn't necessarily mean that's all you're basing what you do on it. We generate a lot of palm fronds and fibrous material, which is harder to go through the chippers. So typically if you're doing that, you upsize a little bit, because what happens is if you buy just exactly what it is you need, you wind up clogging up. And I've had a chipper at my previous golf course. This is the same size. I told Mike we should buy a diesel because it's a stronger machine, but I think budget-wise we settled on the gas. But I would not recommend going below that, just based on the type of material we generate, because the last thing we'd want to do is buy something that then we couldn't really utilize.
that is too small. So when we had the salesman out there, he explained to us, why we should stay with that size. We also talked to a couple of tree guys in the area, and they said the same thing. Go a little bigger. We can also use this chipper for our roads department and the golf. So it's a dual purpose. So plus it's also going to save us money each year on dumping fees. Right now we're paying about $900 a month. We should almost cut that in half, and that doesn't even include anything that we do on the roads. If we have a tree fall, whatever, it's on wheels, so we can take it out there. But for all the equipment that in the last few years, I really feel that this is something we really need. It's going to save money, time, and it's going to save us room. Right now, a couple of you guys went over there and looked at where we have the dumpster. And yesterday we took out six truckloads of the branches and stuff, because we have such a hard time dealing with the trash haulers. They're never on time. When they get here, they make us push everything down, or they'll leave and not even tell us. So it just keeps piling. At least this way, plus whatever we chip up, there are a lot of areas that we can use this stuff at. I mean, not all of them, but there are, so it's actually a dual three reasons why we need it, for that.
So you're going to save $500 a month? So
right around there, yeah. And hopefully more. And Earl and I are both will put staff on it when needed.
So that was the only capital change for the general fund. The only two other adjustments were the change in the golf subsidy went down from $256,550 to $222,250 at the bottom of the page. And then we made slight adjustments in the administration and community service to offset the increase in that proposed chipper. That brings that total reserve balance requirement to balance at $315,700. And then utility fund, I believe we only had one change, and that was in the capital items requested, which is on page. Let's see. The budget's on page 38, and then the equipment capital listings on page 39. We added a trash pump for $50,000. So overall, the numbers stay the same. It's still the $500,000 request. We just swapped out some items for the trash pumps instead. Any questions on that?
So your proposed increase in rates.
The proposed increase rates is not included in these numbers, so that will bring the reserve requirement down
probably $150,000.
About $180,000 based on the $4.25 that we discussed at 11 and 22. So we'll include that in the next proposal.
Okay, so that takes you from 350 to 130.
It brings you down from that 315. It'll probably bring it down to 175. So
that makes me feel better about it. How about the Petanque? Should we? I mean, do you think we're going to have the shuffleboard court done this year, or
not this fiscal year? No, sir. Not this fiscal year. We'll have to put the project out for bid and then receive bids, and it'll be next fiscal year. So what we're going to do is we will have to roll the money that we have currently. We'll roll it to next year through a budget amendment, and we usually do those rollovers, and we bring that to the board November. Usually the November meeting, October, November. So we'll be rolling that money over to next fiscal year.
So we contemplated doing the Petanque, or whatever you call it. Following that, correct. Do we need to then delay this into the following calendar year, the Petanque, 95?
It doesn't have to be. It could actually be done at the same time if that is something the board wants to entertain. If the budget is approved with the Petanque in it, we could technically do the entire project, which, I mean, honestly, it makes the most sense when you think of engineering and mobilization and all those things. So
I was just thinking we could get a lot closer to a break-even budget if we delayed it a year.
We absolutely could do that too. I mean, we could still, as far as a phase 1 and phase 2, but the phase 1 would actually be for the next fiscal, and then the phase 2 could be for the 2021 fiscal year. That is a possibility, yes.
I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I think there is a lot of merit in doing that, and I'd like to look at the next round of budgets with that $95,000 out. Keep in mind that we're also looking about having to add $80,000 in for insurance.
Yep.
I don't care. I just would like to get those done as soon as we can, because there's people want shuffleboard. I think Ray's done a good job trying to get it going. It's just, and I'm not that concerned about a balanced budget. I mean, I know I respect those that want it, but I go along with the majority. So.
We can look at it that way.
Yeah, I think we can look at how close we get. If we decide to put it back in to the next year's budget, we can do that.
For the next draft, do you want us to push it to the following fiscal? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. I don't think there's any opportunity. The utility truck, is that a new purchase?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, do we have a truck? Are we getting rid of? Is this an additional truck? What do we got?
So we have 6 employees in the utility department, and we only have 5 trucks, and we're having to double some of these guys up. and that's why we're requesting a new truck so they all have their own vehicle and can go out and do service calls and not have to ride together to these units, so they can do more. It'll be more efficient operationally to go do sewer calls and repairs and maintenance and some of those things.
Are they going to go on their own? I mean, that's what we said about the Gators too, and I still see two guys on most of them.
Yeah, I think that's. Don't quote me, but I think that's golf that's doing the doubling up, and there may be other reasons for them doubling up. But I know from the utility standpoint, I know Israel's kind of stayed committed that he wants them to split up and be on their own. So, which is why the request came in.
I mean, that's the only thing I see that.
Yeah.
It's not just 40 grand. You buy 40 grand, you got insurance, you got yada yada. Okay. If you think it's reasonable, I'm okay with it. I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a big help for them. I think right now we have one of our guys riding in a Gator, which isn't functional. He can't bring the tools and supplies and piping that he needs, so it is an issue out there for us operationally.
Is all the jobs they do, one person can do it? Because normally I see.
If they can't get to a job, but there's like Villabella, I know, has some of the old piping that's kind of, fragile and can break. Then they'll request backup, and someone will meet them on the site, but then they can go again and veer out. So there's no need for them to be together all day long on those projects. They can get together, work together, and then branch out on their own again.
Because there is a lot of two people Gators out there, and we got a whole bunch of Gators.
I guess the Shenandoah stuff, that's the infiltration study.
Yes.
It says $250,000, $240,000.
Correct. So that's the proposal where we split it into 2 years. We did 125 this year in the budget, and we'll do 125 next year to get it all done. In a two-phase.
Yeah, I was. We don't really have any choice about getting that done. We need to do it.
Right.
I guess the other thing that I look at, and I think Mike left, but we got. I'm not sure we need it. We need security 24/7, 365, plus off-duty policemen. So it's kind of like, are we double dipping here? Do we need somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning or not? I don't know. I mean, I think we need to spend our money prudently, if you would. So if you could look at that for the next pass of the budget and figure out. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do. It's your prerogative.
I don't see an overlap between security and off-duty patrol, and I think one of the main benefits that residents see is that we do have 24/7 security. So I'm not sure I'd look at that as a place to cut.
Well, I won't even say that. I'll tell you privately. I don't want that on the record. What else we need to do, Omar?
I think that's all. We'll take those revisions. We'll take the water rate increases, some of the changes in the golf fund, and we'll bring it back at the next budget meeting.
Ultimately, I'll just make this comment. Ultimately, if we're going to make it make any sense what we've done in this restaurant, we need to get $2 million in sales. And then it all makes sense. Okay? Sitting here at $1.4 million, I can live with that 1 year. And I hate Cliff left too, but I'll tell him privately, although I already have. I don't care what kind of restaurant you run, although it needs to be a first class and something that we're not embarrassed by. But you got another 100 seats, and you got a bigger kitchen. And I don't really want to hear we can't do this or that or the other because we got a catering kitchen. It's done. That's over. And we need to make sure that we get going forward. We got the best restaurant in town. It's the only way it's going to make any sense. And again, I haven't talked to him about what the menu ought to look like or what they ought to do or whatever. But we got to accommodate the residents and we got to accommodate the members. Because the members half our revenue, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Anything for the good of the cause?
Nope.
All right, we're adjourned.